Chapter 276. Zhao Kuo's order was undoubtedly a death sentence for the royal tomb camp. When the generals of the royal tomb camp received the order from the commander-in-chief, their faces were ashen, already having a premonition of their fate. They did not hate Zhao Kuo. They only hated the Qin army for being too cunning. Brothers, fight to the death. The Zhao army's bravery was never inferior to the Qin army. Kill, kill, kill. The scene of Wang Ling leading the remnants of the army to jump out of the trench and fight to the death replayed itself. The same location, the same desperate situation, the only difference was that the two sides had changed. Fate was sometimes so coincidental, but also so cruel. The bravery of the Zhao army moved Meng Ao. For the first time, a ripple appeared in his calm eyes. Facing such an opponent, the only thing Meng Ao could do was to give it his all and send them to the last level. Deafening shouts of kill were repeated inside and outside the camp, and it continued without end. The charge of the Zhao army aroused the bravery of the Qin soldiers. The soldiers of the two sides fought until their eyes turned red, fighting to the death. The fierce battle lasted from morning to afternoon. When they were tired, the Zhao soldiers ate in the trench and did not even have time to return to the camp, because the moment they retreated, the Qin army would pounce on them. The sun was setting in the west, and the royal tomb camp looked especially desolate under the setting sun. The repaired camp became dilapidated again, with broken walls and ruins, and smoke filled the air. Meng Ao sat in the center with a cold expression. The will of the Zhao army to resist was completely beyond his imagination. The trench on the other side looked dead silent, as if it could be taken down at any time. But when the Qin army charged forward, the corpses would magically come back to life, pick up the curved blades in their hands, and fight with the Qin army. After a series of battles, the trench no longer existed. It was buried by corpses and blood. Whether it was the siege weapons or the defense weapons, they were almost all broken, and no one thought of repairing them. At the end of the battle, only the soldiers were left to fight in close quarters. There were no tactics, no fancy tricks. This was the bloodiest and most dazzling scene in the era of cold weapons. Soldiers were not wheat that would quickly grow back after being cut. The Zhao army was top-notch in terms of combat power and determination, and were on par with the Qin army. However, they were outnumbered and eventually lost in front of an enemy that was twice their size. Following the setting sun, they walked towards the darkness together. Just like the royal mausoleum's army, not a single person in the camp surrendered. All of them fought to the death. In this battle, after an entire day of fierce fighting, with the advantage in numbers, Meng Ao's army paid an almost equal price in casualties before they finally managed to take down the royal tomb camp before nightfall. At this point, the lost barracks of the royal mausoleum had been regained, but the price paid was a little too high. After the battle, the mutant army led by Chun Tang was almost completely annihilated, with less than 1,000 survivors. The Inhuman army's tragic state was the best illustration of this battle. After taking down the royal tomb, Meng Ao followed the Lord of Martial Peace by Qi's instructions and led 70,000 troops into the royal tomb. In order to commemorate General Wang Ling, who had died in battle, the name of the camp remained the same. Seeing the royal tomb camp fall, Zhao Zhuang's eyes were red, and he wanted to fight to the death with the Qin army in front of him. However, Commander-in-Chief Zhao Kuo's orders kept his mind clear, and he angrily led his troops back to the foot of the old pass. The allied army of Huan Qi and Ying Bao had blocked Zhao Zhuang's army for an entire day and was exhausted. They retreated to Light Wolf City to rest and build up their strength. The two generals knew that a crueler battle was about to come. As for the 100,000 Qin soldiers north of the 100-mile stone Great Wall to restrain the Zhao army at the old pass, they were naturally separated from the royal tomb camp. When the allied army of Huan Qi and Ying Bao entered Hanoi to attack the Wei army, Wang Ling had received by Qi's secret instructions to split an army of 100,000 to following Bao's previous route to Chongping Pass. A few days ago, when Meng Ao's army was still feigning an attack on the royal tomb camp, The entire Qin camp only had 50,000 soldiers guarding it, like an empty city. At that time, the Zhao army only had 200,000 to 300,000 soldiers, but they did not move. If Zhao Kuo had taken a risk, then the battle situation would have been completely different. Unfortunately, there are no ifs in war. Early the next morning, Zhao Zhuang began to move all the old chariots and usable items out. After 5 whole days of hard work, a never-before-seen circular formation of chariots finally stood majestically at the foot of the old pass. There were 5 layers to this formation. The outermost layer was a moat and stump. The second layer was the chariot's encirclement, with soldiers with swords and shields behind the chariots. The third layer was a phalanx of infantry. The fourth layer was a continuous line of military tents, with soldiers on duty and the injured and the weak. The fifth layer was the central command tower of golden drums with a large Zhao character on it, with the commander commanding the entire army. The formation of the chariot city immediately alerted the Qin army. From afar, the Qin army filled the entire mountain camp to observe and point out the formation, everyone clicking their tongues in wonder. Bai Qi received the report and immediately led the generals up to the highest point of Wolf City Mountain to take a look. From afar, the formation looked like a huge circle of flames with a radius of more than 10 miles. The flags were scattered, the golden drums could be faintly heard, the neighing of horses could be heard, and the sight of it was truly awe-inspiring. Bai Qi glanced at the generals and asked, "All of you are experienced in battle. Who can tell the origin of this formation? What are its strengths and weaknesses? How do we fight it?" Ing Bao had already reached the north of the 100-mile stone wall and was in charge of commanding the 100,000 soldiers there. Meng Ao was in charge of the Zhao army at the Royal Tomb Camp and was in charge of monitoring the movements of the Zhao army at the Old Pass. Beside Bai Qi, there were only 2 generals, Wang Xiai and Huan Qi. Wang Xiai led over 50,000 troops and was still stationed at the Old Horse Ridge camp. Huan Qi took over Ing Bao's troops, and in addition to the mutant cavalry that had always been by his side, there were a total of 80,000 steel cavalry stationed at Light Wolf City, taking over the responsibilities of Meng Ao. Other than these 2 generals, there was Ouyang Shaw, who was the representative of the mutants, and Zhu Sheng, who was following him. Wang Xiai smiled and said, "Who cares about the battle formation? With 50,000 steel cavalry, 2 charges, and it will be overturned." Overturn 50,000 steel cavalry? I'm afraid that even if all 50,000 steel cavalry are dead, you will still be ignorant. As a general, you are a loyal subject of the country. How can a blind man and a blind horse win a battle? Although Bai Qi's words were not fierce, there was an indescribable majesty to them. Even the high-ranking generals like Wang Xiai and Meng Ao were in awe of Bai Qi and never dared to talk to him openly. However, the most important thing was that the entire army had absolute trust in Bai Qi. Bai Qi, who started his career as a soldier, was an Iron Eagle swordsman when he was a soldier. He was proficient in cavalry, infantry, and all kinds of weapons. However, when he walked around the military field, he could tell with one glance that this person's skills were lacking. Ordinary generals would wear casual clothes when they were this long. However, Bai Qi was far from this level. He was meticulous in his calculations on the battlefield, brilliant in his deployment of tactics, plentiful in killing the enemy, decisive in his decisions. He was almost at the point of perfection. For more than 30 years, as long as Bai Qi led the army, no matter how fierce the battle was, the Qin army was invincible. As time passed, the Qin soldiers all talked about Bai Qi as the god of war sent by the heavens. A military rumor spread in the military camp, but if you follow Bai Qi, you will only die of old age. If you die in battle, it is heaven's will. It said that if you fight with Bai Qi, you will not die in vain. Even so, Bai Qi had never been arrogant or impetuous. He was always calm and clear-headed, always diligently trying to figure out the enemy. Other than the word God, there was no other explanation. Hearing Bai Qi's words, Wang Xi's face turned red, and he was so anxious that he scratched his ears and cheeks. Bai Qi knew Wang Xi's character very well and did not take it to heart. Just as he was about to take this opportunity to explain the tactics of the battle formation to the generals, a slow voice suddenly came from behind him. If this old man is not wrong, this formation should be the round formation of the carriage city. Bai Qi was startled and turned his head to look. He saw that the speaker was an old man dressed like a scholar, standing behind the mutant army. The scholar faced Bai Qi's gaze and bowed. Ouyang Shao understood and introduced. Reporting to the Lord of Martial Peace, this is the military advisor of the mutant army, Zhu Shou. Bai Qi nodded, not annoyed at being interrupted. Instead, he praised, I did not expect there to be such an expert among the mutants. Please explain this formation. I am all ears. It was not that Bai Qi was purposely making things difficult for Zhu Shou. As long as one could recognize the formation, they would naturally be able to tell the strengths and weaknesses of the formation. Zhu Shou did not decline and said, the round formation of the carriage city comes from the art of war of Sun Bin. In his entire life, Sun Bin has never used a formation in battle. He only left behind 10 diagrams of formations. How they're used is unknown. The so-called Sun Bin's 10 formations were square formation, circular formation, single line formation, thin formation, number formation, cone formation, flying goose formation, hook formation, xuanxiang formation, water, and fire formation. Of these 10 formations, the first 3 were regular battle formations, which were written by Sun Bin in actual combat. The last one was the water and fire formation, which was also used in actual combat. It was not a formation. The remaining 6 formations were created by Sun Bin, but there was no fixed method to how to use them. There were many variations depending on the person, the place, and the equipment. The current formation of the Zhao army is based on Sun Bin's 10 formations. It is a round formation with trenches, chariots, and infantry. It is called the round formation of the carriage city. The power of the circular chariot formation lies in the coordination of the entire army. The officers and soldiers of the army can coordinate with each other. If our army concentrates our forces to attack one place, the rest will come to attack our flanks and rear. If our army completely encircles the enemy, our forces will spread out to form a circle of several dozen li. We will be scattered and weak. How can we break the camp? Clap, clap, clap. Bai Qi was the first to applaud and laughed. Old Mister is a genius. I do not deserve the praise of the Lord of Martial Peace. Bai Qi waved his hand, and for the first time, his expression turned serious. According to Bai Qi's plan, the next step is to coordinate with Ing Bao's army north of the stone wall to attack the old pass from the front and back. However, Zhao Kuo's formation is equivalent to making the southern part of the old pass impregnable. The royal tomb camp that Meng Ao's army painstakingly built is now useless. Not only that, Zhao Kuo can coordinate with the Hu Pass garrison and attack Ing Bao's army from the front and back. Because of this formation, the situation between the enemy and himself has been reversed. Bai Qi can't help but sigh. Zhao Kuo is really starting to show the power of a famous general. To defeat the Zhao army, we must first destroy the round formation of the carriage city, Bai Qi said firmly. To be continued. Chapter 277. Author's Note. Happy Mid-Autumn Festival. Out of nowhere, a circular formation of carriages became the key to the success or failure of the Battle of Chongping. Within 10 days, the rations from Hanoi Commandery had been safely transported to Guanglang City, alleviating the Qin Army's rations crisis. Fan Zhu used all his means in Xianyang City, ordering the people to live frugally to gather rations for the army. It could be said that Qin had bet all of its fate on this battle. Because the Zhao army had sufficient rations, they were determined to fight the Qin army. After setting up the circular formation of carriages and stabilizing the situation in the south, the ambitious Zhao Kuo turned his attention to Ing Bao's army stationed north of the 100-mile stone wall. There were 170,000 soldiers stationed inside the old pass. In addition to the 50,000 soldiers defending Hu Pass, Zhao Kuo had the confidence to defeat Ing Bao's 100,000 soldiers. A long battle was also a huge burden for the state of Zhao. After listening to Zhao Kuo's plan, Lord Pingyuan Zhao Sheng who was in charge of supervising the army, did not object. Although they successfully defeated the external reinforcements and took down the royal tomb, the situation was still disadvantageous to the Qin army. Just as Bai Qi said, to defeat the Zhao army, they must first defeat the circular formation of carriages. However, this kind of peerless formation, as well as the support of the old pass, to break it was easier said than done. The Lord of Martial Peace, Bai Qi, stood at the watchtower of Wolf Mountain, staring at the formation of the Zhao army. He would look at it for an entire day. He waited for the sun to set in the west before returning to the cave of the shogunate in silence. This continued for several days, but he still could not find a solution. Seeing that Zhao Kuo was sharpening his knife, if he could not think of a solution, he would have to withdraw Ing Bao's army. Once Ing Bao's army withdrew, it would mean that Zhao Kuo's strategy had succeeded. If this continued, Qin would not be able to support such a large army for a long period of time. The best outcome would be for the Qin army to return to the capital dejectedly and hand over Shandong commandery to Zhao. Bai Qi shuddered at the thought of a series of political consequences. Giving up Shandong commandery would not only cut off Qin's path to the east. More importantly, Qin and Zhao would change positions, and the map of the feudal lords would be rewritten. Thus, the state of Qin could not afford to lose, the Qin army could not afford to lose, and Bai Qi could not afford to lose. From the start of the Battle of Chongping until now, there have been several major battles. The mutant armies of the Qin and Zhao factions seemed to be playing supporting roles, faintly discernible, but in reality, they were constantly influencing the direction of the war. Comparing the two, it was the Yin-Huang Alliance's camp that was more eye-catching. The state of Qin, which was led by the Alliance of Mountains and Seas, basically just went with the flow. They didn't offer any constructive suggestions to Bai Qi, nor did they try to influence the course of the battle. Compared to the dazzling performance of the Zhongshan Alliance in the Battle of Zhuolu and Mai, this battle was somewhat overshadowed. It was precisely because of this that Ouyang Shaw had repeatedly gathered the members of the Alliance of Mountains and Seas to discuss how to break the circular formation. Unfortunately, even a military genius like Bai Qi was at his wit's end. What else could they do? Ouyang Shaw was well aware that if he wanted to break the circular formation, he absolutely couldn't follow the ancient way of war. In this aspect, be it the player lords or historical figures like Zhu Sheng, none could surpass Bai Qi. On this day, Ouyang Shaw brought 2 of his personal guards and ascended the city tower of Guanglang City. Right now, there was only the circular formation in his mind. He couldn't think of anything else. In the morning light, a flock of geese flew across the sky, leaving behind a silhouette. Ouyang Shaw was startled, and a thought flashed through his mind. He tried his best to calm his excited heart, closed his eyes, and connected the geese with the circular formation, capturing that flash of inspiration. Seeing the marquee like this, the personal guards knew that they couldn't be disturbed, so they immediately spread out and guarded the surroundings, lest anyone disturb the marquee's thoughts. The circular formation was interlinked and connected, coordinating with each other, causing the enemy to be at a loss as to what to do. Normally speaking, to break this formation, one could either ignore it, and the formation would collapse on its own, or gather the army to suppress the enemy and launch an all-out attack, causing the soldiers in the formation to be restricted and naturally unable to coordinate with each other. Neither of these 2 methods would work. The former required sufficient patience. The Zhao army in the formation had an endless supply of rations from the old pass stronghold, and their endurance was astonishing. Before the enemy was exhausted, the Qin army would be finished first. The latter required a large number of soldiers, and, after a few tough battles, the Qin army had lost close to half of their soldiers, and they no longer had the strength to organize an army to break the circular formation. The flying geese gave Ouyang Shaw a new train of thought. Since the traditional method didn't work, then he had to innovate. Ouyang Shaw was thinking that if the Qin army could be like the modern army, they could use airborne troops to cross the first few layers of the formation and directly attack the core of the formation. As long as the core of the formation was in chaos, the army could launch an attack from the outside, and the formation would definitely be broken. One had to say that the collaboration with the Rattlesnake mercenary group had further stimulated Ouyang Shua's desire for change. His thinking became more and more unconstrained, and he no longer stuck to the distinction between ancient and modern. The difficulty of this method was how to carry out airborne troops. In ancient times, there were no planes that could carry out fixed-point airborne drops. Ouyang Shua opened his eyes and looked at the great grain mountain in front of him, and his eyes lit up. The Great Grain Mountain lay between the Little Dongsong River and the Great Dongsong River, and it extended all the way to the foot of the old pass. It was very close to the circular formation that the Zhao army had set up. If they could land from the top of the Great Grain Mountain, they might be able to dive down and land in the center of the circular formation without the help of any flying equipment. Now, there was only one problem left before his idea could be turned into a feasible plan, and that was how to find a substitute for parachutes. Ouyang Shua immediately thought of the military tents that the Shanghai County Army had brought. Wasn't this equipment that surpassed the level of ancient technology the best substitute for parachutes? After thinking it through, Ouyang Shua no longer hesitated, and he said excitedly, "Let's go to the Wolf Mountain and meet the Lord of Martial Peace." The personal guard saw the Lord of Martial Peace's happy face, and he was also happy, and he quickly followed him down. When Ouyang Shua arrived at the top of the Wolf Mountain, the Lord of Martial Peace was still standing on the watchtower, and he was staring at the circular formation in silence. Bai Qi didn't react to Ouyang Shua's arrival. Helpless, Ouyang Shua could only take the lead and say, "Lord of Martial Peace, I have thought of a way to break the formation, and I hope that the Lord of Martial Peace can take a look at it and see if it can be implemented." "What?" Bai Qi, who was motionless, immediately turned around, and it scared Ouyang Shua. Bai Qi stared at Ouyang Shua with his triangular eyes that were unique to the Qin people, and he said excitedly, "There is no joking in the army. What method have you thought of to break the formation? Quickly tell me." As an old general who had been on the battlefield for many years, Bai Qi was not angry. Ouyang Shua's heart trembled, and he calmed his mind, and he told him everything that he had thought of. After listening to Ouyang Shua's method to break the formation, Bai Qi was speechless for a long time, and he murmured, "There is actually such a method to break the formation in this world. This old man is really ignorant and inexperienced. This is a method that I happen to think of, and I don't know if it will work." Bai Qi was still Bai Qi, and as long as Ouyang Shua explained a little, he would understand the crux of the matter, and he said confidently, "Although there are still some shortcomings, it is feasible on the whole, and we still need to plan in detail. Not to mention anything else. It's impossible to land accurately in the center of the formation without repeated training beforehand. Other than that, how many soldiers to send in is also a problem. Too many won't work, and too few won't work either, and it won't be able to disrupt the central army. The timing of the landing is also very important, and if we're discovered by the Zhao army during the landing, we will become a live target, and the soldiers will be shot to death before they even land." Ouyang Shua knew that in terms of details, he could not compare to Bai Qi, and he obediently said, "I will listen to the Lord of Martial Peace's orders, and the mutant army will be at your disposal." Bai Qi nodded and said, "How can you say that you have no clothes? You're not bad. Since we have met, you have already brought this old man many surprises, and now you have even solved this ancient problem. If we win this battle, you will have the greatest contribution." Ouyang Shua suppressed the excitement in his heart. "I do not deserve the Lord of Martial Peace's praise. This is what I should do." Bai Qi waved his hand, and it was obvious that he did not want to pursue the matter. "You still have a few things to do. Please instruct me, Lord of Martial Peace. Firstly, draw the parachute you mentioned into a blueprint, and teach the army craftsmen how to sew it. Secondly, gather all the tents." "Yes." Ouyang Shua nodded his head, but he hesitated. Bai Qi's eyes were sharp, and he said, "What do you have to say? Why don't you say it directly?" "I have a small request. Among the cavalry that I brought, there is an imperial brigade, and they're all experienced soldiers. Furthermore, they have received advanced military training. I hope that the Lord of Martial Peace will allow me to pick a group of soldiers from the Imperial Brigade to participate in this operation." Bai Qi nodded and said, "This old man has also heard of your Imperial Brigade. Huan Qi, Ing Bao, and Wang He have all mentioned it to this old man on different occasions, saying that the Imperial Brigade is well equipped and their battle prowess is extraordinary. It seems that their words are not false. But they are cavalry. Can they fight on foot as well?" Ouyang Shua's heart leaped with joy. After all, the Shanghai County Army hadn't disgraced him and had left a deep impression on the Qin generals. In fact, they even had Bai Qi's attention. The Imperial Guard Brigade is selected from the various divisions of the army. Every soldier is skilled in infantry and cavalry. "Fine, this old man agrees." Bai Qi's reply was very straightforward. According to Bai Qi's plan, his personal bodyguards, the 300 Iron Eagle swordsmen, were the best candidates for this airborne mission. However, 300 people were a little too few. Since Ouyang Shua had taken the initiative to volunteer, he naturally wouldn't refuse. Many thanks for the calm martial ruler's trust. Ouyang Shua had no selfish motives in recommending the Imperial Guard Brigade to participate in the battle. It was purely to increase the success rate of the mission. No matter what, the Brigade of Praetorian Guards had received training in the recruit camp and had broadened their horizons. Coupled with their individual combat strength, it was only natural that they would not pass on the responsibility. Otherwise, he wouldn't be willing to mobilize the Imperial Guards for such a dangerous mission. To be continued. Chapter 278. The Battle of Chongping once again fell into the rhythm of the Qin army. Bai Qi issued an order to Ing Bao's army, which was stationed at the north of the stone wall, to build a camp, dig deep trenches, and defend the camp. Without military orders, they were not to go out to battle. Otherwise, they would be punished according to military law. If the army of 100,000 was determined to hold their ground, it would not be easy for Zhao Kuo to take them down. After stabilizing the north, Bai Qi ordered Meng Ao's army stationed at the Royal Mausoleum to coordinate with Wang Xi's army stationed at the Old Horse Ridge to launch frequent attacks, waiting for an opportunity to find a weak point in the circular formation. Huan Qi's army stationed in Light Wolf City sent 10,000 cavalry to protect the rations along the way. They had to ensure that the rations were unobstructed and not give the enemy any more opportunities. All of these were just appearances. More importantly, the Qin army was still making preparations for the airborne troops plan. The number of paratroopers was limited to 1,000. Aside from Bai Qi's personal guards, the 300 Iron Eagle swordsmen, the remaining 700 would be chosen from the Shanghai County Guard Brigade. Shi Wansui was appointed as the captain of this assault team, while Bai Qi's personal guard captain was appointed as the vice captain. One of the reasons why Ouyang Shua made this arrangement was because Shi Wansui was a fierce general, and he could take on this heavy responsibility. The second reason was because Shi Wansui had already left his name in Guanlin Temple. Even if he died in battle, he could be revived in Guanlin Temple. The sewing of the parachute was also progressing smoothly. After the first parachute was sewn, Ouyang Shua tested it. The location of the test was a cliff in Wolf Mountain. He ordered someone to find a cloth bag, put 100 kilograms of stones in the bag, and hung the bag on the parachute. The parachute with the cloth bag flew down the cliff and slowly landed at the foot of the mountain. Bai Qi and the others were very satisfied with the result of the test. After the heavy object test, it was time for the real person test. Wang Feng, the commander of the Brigade of Praetorian Guards, volunteered to be the first to participate in the combat test. Ouyang Shua taught him some landing techniques. Compared to the heavy object test, Wang Feng's test was a little bumpy. Because there were no other auxiliary materials, the sewn parachute was actually very crude and could not be opened in the air. Therefore, to successfully take off, the only way was to run on the ground and jump down. During the descent, the balance of the parachute was also very difficult to control. It swayed unsteadily, which made Ouyang Shua worried. Fortunately, in the end, Wang Feng successfully landed. Although Ouyang Shua was not very satisfied, it was already an incredible thing for Bai Qi and the others. Bai Qi, on the other hand, was filled with confidence. He requested for the assault team to train in Wolf Mountain until every member of the assault team was proficient in landing techniques. On the other hand, Bai Qi sent out a spy to the peak of Daliang Mountain to find a suitable landing spot. At the same time, he made some arrangements for the landing site and built a simple run-up track. Everything was proceeding in full swing. During this period, there's also a small incident. Feng Xiaohuang had luckily triggered the subduing mission of the left concubine head, Wang Bei, and had even completed it unexpectedly. Once the battle was over, he would be able to subdue Wang Bei. The members of the Mountain and Sea Alliance congratulated Feng Xiaohuang for her good luck. Ouyang Shaw also felt gratified that Luofeng County had finally ended its era of no generals, which is a huge boon for the alliance of mountains and seas. No wonder Feng Xiaohuang was so enthusiastic about the Battle of Chongping from the start. Ouyang Shua guessed that she must have also obtained some information about the closed beta test. It seemed like she was lucky, but in reality, there was a great deal of inevitability. Ouyang Shua could naturally understand Feng Xiaohuang's little tricks. He could not expect the members of the Mountain and Sea Alliance to be selfless, and it was normal for every leader to have their own secret weapon. From this, could it be deduced that Di Chun and the rest were also starting to subdue the generals of Zhao? Among the Zhao army, Commander-in-Chief Zhao Kuo and Deputy General Zhao Zhuang were both good candidates. Especially Zhao Kuo. After the experience of the Battle of Chongping, he was already close to perfection. Even if he could not be the main general, he would still be a good military advisor in the territory. Other than that, there was still Lien Pe in Handan City, waiting to be subdued by the players. Since Lien Pe had been abandoned by the king of Zhao, the chances of subduing him had greatly increased. As for Li Mu, who was stationed at the borders, because he was too far away and had nothing to do with the Battle of Chongping, it would probably be difficult to subdue him. Moreover, Li Mu was still young and had not reached the heights of history. Like Feng Xiaohuang, Di Chun and the rest's desire for historical generals was no less than Feng Xiaohuang's. Ouyang Shua vaguely remembered that in his previous life, Lien Pe was subdued by Di Chun and became a general of Handan County. He did not know if there would be any changes in this life. Amidst the chaos, the Battle of Chongping reached its final battle. After the painful lesson of having their food supply cut off, Zhao Kuo did not mobilize the troops at Hu Pass at first. Instead, he planned to take Downing Bao's camp with only 170,000 soldiers. The fortress at Hu Pass could not be left without a single soldier. Therefore, Zhao Kuo could only mobilize about 150,000 soldiers. Ing Bao obeyed Bai Qi's orders and did not move out. Under the situation where the difference in military strength between the two sides was not too great, Zhao Kuo could not do anything. He attacked several times, but to no avail. Zhao Kuo was determined to take Downing Bao's camp. He ordered the troops at Hu Pass to attack together. At the same time, the Qin army was secretly adjusting their deployment. The commando team had already moved from Wolf Mountain to Grain Mountain, ready to descend at any time. All they were waiting for was a suitable opportunity. One day, the sky had just brightened, and the valley of Chongping was covered in fog. The sparse white fog filled the valley. It was hazy and faintly discernible, like a fairyland. As usual, Bai Qi woke up early and went to the cave to train. Seeing the white fog at the foot of the mountain, he was overjoyed and said, "The heavens are helping me. Men, pass on my orders." Following Bai Qi's order, the Qin army began to move. Wang Xi's army and Huan Qi's army quietly left the camp and approached the direction of the old pass. When they reached the royal tomb camp, they met up with Meng Ao's army. More than 200,000 Qin soldiers marched majestically towards the old pass. The Zhao army's commander in charge of the circular formation was Deputy General Zhao Zhuang. The large-scale movement of the Qin army could not be hidden from Zhao Zhuang. Zhao Zhuang immediately became alert. Although he was confident in the formation set up by the great general, he was still shocked when the Qin army came out in full force. Bai Qi's reputation was not limited to the Qin army. He would not do useless things. He might really find a way to break the formation. Zhao Zhuang did not dare to be negligent. He ordered the 100,000 soldiers to perform their duties and be alert. Just as the Qin and Zhao armies were in a tense standoff, the Qin commando team was ready at the top of Grain Mountain. The white fog only floated at the foot of the mountain. It was clear at the top of the mountain. The commando team had practiced this hundreds of times. Under the leadership of the brave General Shi Wansui, they used the makeshift runway and jumped down. Like a heavenly soldier, they descended silently from the sky. The white fog was a great help to the commando team. The Zhao army was only focused on the aggressive Qin army outside the formation. They did not expect that there would be an army descending from the sky. They did not even think of raising their heads. Coupled with the cover of the white fog, the Zhao army only reacted when the commando team landed in the middle of the formation. Shi Wansui did not care about the surprise of the enemy. He led the commando team and spread out in a circle towards the Zhao army. He cleared out an empty space to provide cover for the members who landed later on. Zhao Zhuang was stationed at the center of the Golden Drum military command tower and was the first to discover the traces of the Qin assault team. Even though he was shocked, he reacted quickly and ordered his soldiers to take advantage of the moment when the enemy had yet to gain a firm foothold. They must not allow the enemy to gain a firm foothold and gain a firm foothold. Just as the center of the formation was in chaos, the Qin army outside the formation started to attack. The vanguard was the 50,000-strong army of Wang Ling. This brave general led the soldiers and charged towards the formation without fear of death. The Qin army's attack from both inside and outside made the Zhao army very uncomfortable. After the 1,000 commando team landed, they lost less than 100 men. Some of them were shot by the arrows of the Zhao army in the air. Some of them did not control their landing spot and landed outside the formation, losing contact with the main group. Some of them were killed by the Zhao army in the process of covering for them. After the commando team gained a foothold, Shi Wansui targeted the Golden Drum military command tower. For this attack, the commando team had made sufficient preparations. Under Shi Wansui's order, the commando team members took out their axes and were about to chop down the military command tower. Just in case, they even poured oil on the military command tower. With a big fire, they wanted to burn the entire building down. The Zhao army was also a tough army. How could they tolerate the enemy behaving atrociously in their territory? Tens of thousands of Zhao soldiers gathered from all directions, determined to wipe out this commando team. Once the military command tower was set on fire, thick smoke billowed out, and it looked like it was about to collapse. Zhao Zhuang, who was guarding the military command tower, had no choice but to escape from the building under the protection of his personal guards. At this point, the circular formation lost its command center and could no longer operate effectively. Bai Qi, who was outside the formation, saw this golden opportunity and would not let it go. He commanded the army to press forward and attack together. They must destroy this formation and wipe out the Zhao army inside. The core mission of the commando team had been completed. The next mission was to survive. Facing the charging Zhao army, Shi Wansui grinned and said loudly, "Brats, let me show you the power of your grandpa Shi." As he spoke, he waved his long spear and initiated an attack on the Zhao army. The pride of the leader further stimulated the commando team members. All of them roared and formed into formations, charging towards the Zhao army. Among them, be it the Iron Eagle swordsmen or the palace guards, all of them were elites of the elites. Under the leadership of the fierce General Shi Wansui, they were like a group of ferocious tigers, killing their way through a pack of wolves. In an instant, tens of thousands of Zhao soldiers faced off against 900 Qin soldiers. They were evenly matched. It was a spectacular sight. Shi Wansui was in high spirits. His long spear was like a swimming dragon. Whoever it pointed at, that person would die. Whoever it brushed against, that person would be injured. He truly displayed the power of one of the 10 great generals in history. He was truly unstoppable. In a short period of time, the center of the formation was filled with corpses. The scene was extremely explosive. To be continued. Chapter 279. Not to mention the ferocious General Shi Wansui slaughtering everyone in the center of the circular formation. Outside the formation, Lord of Martial Peace by Qi left the watchtower of Wolf Mountain for the first time to personally command the army. Burning novel? R-A-N-E-N-O-R-G. The 200,000-strong army, under by Qi's command, broke through the circular formation layer by layer. The circular formation lost its command center. Although it was still operating, it had lost the essence of the formation. It could no longer move like an arm and attack together. It was like a dead formation. On the other hand, under by Qi's command, the Qin army combined their infantry and cavalry. Some formed a defensive formation. Some charged forward, some attacked from the front and rear, some lured the enemy deep in, and some attacked from the front. Bai Qi's command of the army was smooth like flowing water. Like a hole, they accurately nibbled away at the Zhao army within the formation. The Zhao army was separated into a few layers by the formation. Their previous advantage instantly turned into a disadvantage. Zhao Zhuang escaped from the burnt command tower and tried to command the army again. Unfortunately, it was too late. At the foot of the old pass, the earth-shattering battle started to heat up. Within the circular formation, battle cries shook the heavens. Dust billowed, and the thin fog was stirred up by the army. The fairyland in the morning instantly turned into hell. Within a radius of 10 miles, 200,000 Qin soldiers and 100,000 Zhao soldiers were entangled with each other. Black and red mixed together, moving, fighting and killing each other. There was me in you, and you in me. It was like a vivid painting. The ground was the drawing board, the soldiers were the paint, and Bai Qi was the real painter. As the battle progressed, the blacks started to gain the upper hand. Waves of black currents dispersed the red waves and surrounded them, starting a cruel encirclement. Slowly, the red became thinner and thinner. Black became the main color. The messy red mixed in the black sea was like rootless duckweed, floating with the waves. In the end, the circular formation had lost its effectiveness and the Zhao army was defeated. Zhao Zhuang was also decisive. Seeing that things were not going well, he immediately gathered his army and retreated towards the old pass, trying to preserve the Zhao army's strength. The army fought and retreated and soon returned to the old pass. Seeing that the Zhao army had abandoned the formation and escaped, Bai Qi gave the order to stop. This battle could be said to be like a falcon descending from the sky. After the battle, the Qin army managed to destroy the circular formation of Che City at the cost of 10,000 deaths, while the Zhao army left behind 30,000 corpses and fled back to the old pass in a sorry state. After the formation was broken, the rations that the Zhao army left in the formation naturally benefited the Qin army. Bai Qi did not let his guard down. He gave the order to build a new camp at the foot of the old pass, using the resources from the circular formation as the foundation. It was called the Southern Line Camp, completely sealing off the Zhao army's path to the south. After the Great Battle, Bai Qi moved the middle military shogunate from Wolf Mountain to the Royal Mausoleum. Meng Ao's army, which was originally stationed at the Royal Mausoleum, joined up with Wang Xi's army and moved to the southern border camp at the foot of the old pass. As for the steel cavalry led by Huan Qi, they were stationed in the Royal Mausoleum as the main support for the army. At the same time, they were responsible for the safety of the army's rations. The greatest heroes of this battle, the 1,000 commandos, only 400 people survived in the end. Of the 700 warriors of the Shanghai County Imperial Guard Brigade, only 300 were left. One could see how tragic the battle was. When Shi Wansui walked out of the formation, he looked like a man covered in blood. His entire body was covered in the blood of his enemies. Even his face was indistinguishable. He was like an Azura that walked out of hell. The Qin soldiers looked at Shi Wansui, their eyes filled with reverence. Ouyang Shua also felt gratified. Be it the Battle of Zhuolu, the Battle of Mai, or the Battle of Chongping, Shi Wansui was always able to stand up at the crucial moment and solve problems for him. In the Battle of Zhuolu against Qiyu, in the Battle of Mai to build a steel defense line, in the Battle of Chongping, he was the vanguard of the assault. He was truly the god of war of the army, an iron-blooded warrior. Seeing how fierce Shi Wansui was, Eli also felt a surge of energy in his heart and wanted to find a chance to prove himself. The Rakshasa beneath him felt his master's fighting spirit and roared loudly. Nian, Ouyang Shuo looked at this scene in amusement and shook his head without saying a word. Once the circular formation of Che City was broken, the outcome was set. It was not far from the end of the Battle of Chongping. 2 flowers bloomed, one on each side. Inside Chongping Valley, the battle on the north side started at the same time. Zhao Kuo led the 150,000 soldiers guarding the old pass, and together with the 50,000 guarding Hu Pass from the south, a total of 200,000 soldiers charged towards Ing Bao's camp like a sea of fire. In an instant, the pressure on Ing Bao's camp increased greatly. Fortunately, the camp had been reinforced and remodeled during this period of time, and was now a fortress of iron and blood. All kinds of defensive weapons were densely arranged around the camp. Ing Bao was also a valiant general. He led the Qin soldiers and stubbornly repelled the attacks of the Zhao army time and time again. For a moment, although the Zhao army had the upper hand, they could not break into camp. It looked like the battle to take down Ing Bao's camp was about to turn into a long and bitter battle. At this moment, the news of the circular formation of Che City being broken and the defeat of Zhao Zhuang's army reached Zhao Kuo's ears. It was like a bolt from the blue that made him dizzy. Zhao Kuo could not imagine how the peerless defensive formation was broken by the Qin army in such a short period of time. With the circular formation of Che City broken, there were no more barriers on the south side of the old pass fortress, and it was now facing the threat of the Qin army. The fortress could be breached at any time, and the pressure on the Zhao army increased. Under such circumstances, how could Zhao Kuo attack Ing Bao's camp with peace of mind? Before Zhao Kuo could think further, the chief of scouts reported another piece of bad news. According to the scouts, a group of Qin army has suddenly bypassed Mount Taiyang and entered through Hu Pass. Taking advantage of the time when the main defending force of Hu Pass fortress was heading south, they have already occupied Hu Pass. The 10,000 defending soldiers in the fortress have all been killed. When Zhao Kuo heard the news, he staggered and almost lost his balance. His face instantly turned pale, and his eyes were filled with despair. Seeing the chief of scouts in such a state, the chief of scouts was also filled with sorrow. It was not easy for the Zhao army to turn the tide of the battle, but in the blink of an eye, the situation had turned 180 degrees. If it were anyone else, they would not be able to accept it in such a short period of time, let alone the proud Zhao Kuo. After the fall of Wild King Fortress, King Zhao of Qin had recruited a new army in Hanoi. Bai Qi had not mobilized this secret army, but ordered them to travel north along Mount Taiyang and wait for the right time. Bai Qi's original plan was to use this army to hold back the reinforcements from the vassal states. Unexpectedly, the Wei army was so weak that they were utterly defeated by the 100,000 Qin cavalry. The 5 states in Shandong were scared out of their wits, and no reinforcements dared to march to Chongping War Zone. Even so, considering that the Qin army in Chongping War Zone was more than enough to deal with the current situation, Bai Qi still did not mobilize this army to Chongping, but ordered it to lie low. According to Bai Qi's military style, he had not given up on besieging the Zhao army, which was why he came up with a 16-word strategy. In Bai Qi's eyes, Hu Guan had become the best breakthrough point. Indeed, opportunities always come to those who are prepared. Under Bai Qi's deliberate bait, the young Zhao Kuo could not resist the temptation to annihilate Ing Bao's army and achieve a glorious victory. Little did he know that he had already fallen into Bai Qi's trap. The situation of the battle went smoothly according to Bai Qi's plan. The only accident was the circular formation that Zhao Kuo had set up, which troubled Bai Qi for a while. Fortunately, with Ouyang Shuo's ingenious plan, the accident was eliminated, and the battle returned to Bai Qi's chessboard. With such a huge plan, no one except Bai Qi and the Qin generals could see the whole picture. Because of this, Bai Qi was full of praise for Ouyang Shuo. If not for Ouyang Shua's plan, Bai Qi's entire military plan would have been in vain. Seizing the opportunity when the garrison of Huwan came out, the Qin army took over Huwan fortress in one fell swoop, completely cutting off the Zhao army's only route back to Handan. Now, after a series of arrangements, the battle miraculously returned to the situation at the beginning of the battle. The 300,000 Zhao soldiers were besieged by the 400,000 Qin soldiers at the Old Pass, unable to move. To the north of the Old Pass, the 100,000 Qin soldiers were stationed at Huwan Fortress. To the west, Ing Bao's camp was impregnable. To the south, the 200,000 Qin soldiers were stationed at the southern line and the Royal Tomb camp. To the east, there were mountains and lofty ridges where birds could not be seen. After taking over Huwan Fortress, under Bai Qi's order, the 100,000 Qin soldiers stationed at Huwan Fortress sent 40,000 steel cavalry to reinforce Ing Bao's camp, completely cutting off the possibility of the Zhao army taking over the camp. Retreat, return to the Old Pass. After a long moment of silence, Zhao Qi said in a barely audible voice. At this critical moment, Zhao Qi still retained a trace of rationality and did not forcefully attack Ing Bao's camp. The circular formation of Huwan Fortress was broken, and if the battle continued, the Old Pass would fall before Ing Bao's camp could fall. By that time, the 200,000 Zhao soldiers would not have a camp to defend, nor would they have any reinforcements, and would truly be in a desperate situation, just like what happened before. Thinking of this, Zhao Qi could not help but shiver. Therefore, Zhao Qi had to retreat to Huwan Fortress while the Qin army was resting and reorganizing, hoping that the kingdom would send reinforcements to rescue them. After all, Huwan Fortress still had a month's worth of rations to supply the army. As long as the Zhao army held their ground, the Qin army could forget about successfully taking over Huwan Fortress. After the army retreated from the front line, Zhao Qi fell ill. He had a high fever and was delirious. The Zhao army had lost their backbone and was faced with a desperate situation. Their morale was at an all-time low. Fortunately, Lord Ping Yuan, Zhao Sheng, stood up and reassured the army. Knowing that Huwan Fortress had been taken over by the Qin army, Di Chun and the rest were ashen. After a few rounds of fierce battles, the mutant army of Zhao had less than 10,000 men left. They could no longer control the outcome of the battle. All their plans had failed. The only fortunate thing was that they had successfully subdued 2 of their generals. Di Chun personally went to Handan and used some unknown methods to successfully subdue Lianpe. With a dazzling performance, the wolf warriors successfully took over Zhao village. Only Zhao Qi, although Lord Chunshin had triggered a mission, but with the current situation, it was still unknown whether he could be successfully subdued. The show was about to come to an end. To be continued. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Bai Qi conducted a large-scale reorganization of the army, mixing 100,000 new soldiers into the main army and indirectly increasing the defensive capabilities of Huguan stronghold. At this point, the 60,000-strong army stationed at Huguan Fortress consists of both new soldiers and veterans. Even if Zhao secretly formed a new army in Handan, it would be impossible for them to take down Huguan Fortress. After the reorganization of the army was completed, Bai Qi breathed a sigh of relief. He knew that he had an 80% chance of winning this battle. Bai Qi's actions dazzled Ouyang Shua, and he benefited greatly from it. During his free time, Ouyang Shua intentionally looked for Bai Qi to chat about some matters regarding the territory, using this as an excuse to get closer to Bai Qi. Ever since the destruction of the circular formation, Bai Qi's attitude towards Ouyang Shua changed greatly, and he became much closer to him. Sometimes, he would even discuss with Ouyang Shua on how to take down the Old Pass. Bai Qi knew that although they have surrounded the Zhao army again, the actual situation is different from the first time. Not to mention the fact that the Zhao army is no longer defenseless with the Old Pass. The key point is that there's a large amount of rations stored in the Old Pass. Zhao Qi has every reason to fight to the death before the rations run out. It is almost impossible to take down the Zhao army without shedding blood. Therefore, Bai Qi deduced that no matter how Xianying plans, they will not be able to avoid a fierce battle. No matter how the Zhao army breaks through, the Old Pass is a hurdle that the Qin army cannot avoid. As for how to take down the Old Pass, Bai Qi has already started a plan and strived to successfully take down the Old Pass at the lowest cost. Up until now, the Qin army has the absolute upper hand. In fact, the number of casualties on both sides is almost the same, about half of the casualties. In Chongping Valley, more than 500,000 brave souls from both sides are resting here. In the blink of an eye, half a month has passed. The Zhao envoys gained nothing in Xianying and finally understood that Qin will not agree to the peace talks. They also saw through the evil intentions of the Qin court and left Xianying in anger. Even though they saw through Qin's evil intentions, Zhao is powerless. When they sent the envoys to Qin, Han Dan was not really idle. On one hand, they sent a large number of envoys with generous gifts to the various states in Shandong, secretly persuading them to send troops. Unfortunately, there is little effect. Needless to say, Wei's Prince Xinling has long been imprisoned. Qi's Prince of Qi refused to accept Prince Ping Yuan. Lin Xiangru and Old Su remonstrated on his behalf and refused to send troops and supplies. Chu's Prince Ping Yuan was ignored and watched the battle between Qin and Zhao. The most detestable of all is Yin, their old enemy who has long become weak, actually plotting to attack Zhao and take advantage of the situation. The fickleness of human nature, the fickleness of the world. There is no lasting friendship between countries. On the other hand, King Xiaoqing of Zhao has reactivated the old General Lin Pe and started to organize the new army in Handan. Half a month later, the 100,000 new army has taken shape in the outskirts of Handan. Even with Lin Pe's ability, he has no confidence in his own army. But time waits for no man. The peace talks have broken down, and Zhao cannot afford to lose their main army. King Xiaoqing of Zhao can only order Lin Pe to lead the new army and attack Hu Pass. One could well imagine how a new army of 100,000 could break through Hu Pass fortress. After the Qin army took over the fortress, not only did they reorganize the army, they also reorganized the armaments. The soldiers were arranged to the city walls to practice defense every day and familiarize themselves with the various defenses, making Hu Pass impregnable. Not only that, Bai Qi even transferred Meng Ao, who is known for his steadiness, from the southern lines and stationed him at Hu Pass to lead the army. With Meng Ao personally in charge, Hu Pass fortress has become an insurmountable barrier for the Zhao army. What Lin Pe had to face was precisely such a hurdle. Lin Pe's original intention is not to attack Hu Pass fortress by force, but it is difficult to defy the king's orders. In addition, there are many old brothers who have followed him for many years in the army. Old Lin Pe cannot bear to part with them. After days of attacks, other than the increasing number of casualties, there is no progress. While Lin Pe is leading the army to attack Hu Pass, Zhao Kuo, who is guarding the Old Pass, has finally recovered. Naturally, Zhao Kuo does not want to wait for death. He must break through the Qin army's blockade before the rations run out. To the north or to the south, Zhao Kuo has to make a choice. To the north, not only must he break through Ying Bao's camp, but he must also attack Hu Pass fortress. To the south, he must break through the southern lines and the royal tombs camp. Neither side was easy to deal with. What's worse, Zhao Kuo cannot mobilize the entire army to break through one side. Because the Old Pass is being attacked from both sides by the Qin army, no matter which side is broken through, the Qin army on the other side will take the opportunity to attack the Old Pass fortress. After careful consideration, Zhao Kuo finally decided to break through to the north. After all, outside Hu Pass, there is still the 100,000 soldiers led by Lin Pe. With the plan decided, Zhao Kuo ordered Zhao Zhuang to take 70,000 soldiers to guard the southern side of the Old Pass. He then led the main force of 200,000 soldiers to attack Ying Bao's camp. At this time, Ying Bao's camp has increased to 140,000 soldiers. For Zhao Kuo to take down Ying Bao's camp which is guarded by 140,000 Qin soldiers with 200,000 soldiers, is as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Before departing, Zhao Kuo made a final war mobilization. Brothers, this is our last chance. Either we attack the camp, or we die in battle. There is no third option. Fight to the death. Kill, kill, kill. A solemn and stirring feeling spread out in the old pass, giving people the courage to fight and the strength to advance. Move out. Zhao Kuo waved his hand. Di Chun and the other player lords bitterly led the few remaining troops and watched helplessly as they walked towards death. At this time, if the players refused to send out their troops, they would be killed. From the very beginning, both sides were fighting to the death, and they fought with all their strength. There was no probing, no fluke. It was either you die or I live. Fierce fighting could be seen on every corner of the camp. Every section of the wall had to go through repeated tug-of-war. If it was seized by the Zhao army, the Qin army would fight to the death to take it back, and the cycle would repeat. The number of soldiers dying on both sides increased at a visible rate. Zhao Kuo divided the 200,000 soldiers into two groups and had them take turns to attack. They wouldn't stop until they broke through the wall. The Qin army wasn't easy to deal with either. Ing Bao personally led a group of elites to act as a firefighting team. Wherever there was danger, the firefighting team would be there, and they would take back the lost positions time and time again. The sea of red flames and the black waves clashed again. Either the soldiers were smashed to pieces, or they advanced by stepping on the corpses of their enemies. The cruel war turned every soldier into a Shura, turning the battlefield into an endless hell. In the eyes of the soldiers, there was only killing and no other emotions. After a morning of fierce attacks, Ing Bao's camp was badly damaged, and almost all of the defensive weapons were destroyed. In the end, the Qin army could only use their bodies to block the attacks of the Zhao army. As the attacking side, the Zhao army didn't have it easy either. The mountain of corpses outside the camp was the best proof. As the saying goes, the first drumbeat of energy, the second will weaken, and the third will be exhausted. After a long time of failure, the high morale of the Zhao army inevitably started to drop. The huge number of casualties and repeated tug-of-war put the soldiers through a huge test, both physically and mentally. From now on, it was a battle of willpower between the two sides to see which side would give up first. What broke the balance of the battlefield didn't come from the two sides, but from the rear of the Zhao army. The old pass was broken through by the Qin army. To be continued. Chapter 281. Just as Zhao Kuo was leading his army to attacking Bao's camp, Bai Qi was also leading his army to attack the old pass. 200,000 soldiers surrounded the southern side of the old pass. With the help of the 3 bows, 8 bull's bed crossbows brought by Ouyang Shuo and Mulan Yue, countless treading arrows were nailed to the walls of the old pass. Countless Qin soldiers stepped on the arrows and charged up the wall like a tidal wave. The army of Zhao Zhuang launched a ferocious counterattack. Countless rolling logs and huge rocks came pouring down from the top of the wall like sand, crushing wave after wave of Qin soldiers into meat paste. Fierce fire oil tanks formed a line of defense, burning the enemies into charcoal. Their corpses fell to the ground and were immediately crushed. Other than that, the Zhao army made use of the advantage of being in a higher position to launch a never-ending rain of arrows. Similarly, the Qin army was not afraid of death. They used the corpses to fill the trenches and depleted the enemy's supplies. At the foot of the wall, the corpses of the Qin soldiers were piled up 2 meters high. The soldiers stepped on the corpses of their comrades and continued to climb up. Just as the two sides were engaged in a fierce battle, the Lord of Martial Peace, Bai Qi, used the same trick. He ordered his men to push dozens of 10 feet tall cloud towers to the foot of the old pass. The vanguard team stood on the cloud towers, and with the help of parachutes, they descended directly into the old pass and gave the Zhao army a fatal blow. The surprise attack of the vanguard team was the last straw that broke the camel's back. The Qin army worked together from the inside and outside, and the old pass finally fell. The remaining Zhao Zhuang army in the stronghold had no choice but to raise their hands and surrender. The fall of the Old Pass marked the end of the Battle of Chongping. When the Zhao army, who were attacking Ying Bao's camp with all their might, learned that their rear pass had fallen, they no longer had the desire to attack. Their eyes were filled with despair. After some struggle, Zhao Kuo surrendered after the Zhao Zhuang army. According to Zhao Kuo's nature, he would rather die than surrender. Moreover, according to the mutant Di Chun and the others, the Qin army had killed all the surrendered soldiers in history, leaving no way for them to survive. However, history had been changed, and he, Zhao Kuo, was about to follow the mutant Lord Chunshin on another journey. In another world, he would continue to compete with Bai Qi. At this point, the Battle of Chongping had officially ended. The state of Zhao's camp had not been able to turn the tables, and the announcement of the campaign was made in a timely manner. Perhaps, even Gaia could not bear to see the scene of the 200,000 surrendered Zhao soldiers being killed. The battle came to an abrupt end when Zhao Kuo surrendered, leaving a silhouette in history for later generations to comment on. Battle Campaign Announcement. The Battle of Chongping has officially ended. Additional contribution points will be calculated based on the player's contribution to the battle campaign and their contribution to the camp. In this battle, Ouyang Shuo was no longer alone. Di Chun, Zhang Lang, Lord Chunshin, and the others had all played a crucial role in pushing forward the course of the battle. They had all received large amounts of contribution points. The sound of the system's notification rang in Ouyang Shuo's ears. System notification. Player not wearing clothes. The representative of the state of Qin's mutant faction has led the Shanghai County Iron Cavalry to numerous military exploits, offering a plan to destroy the Chariot Circle formation. For all these, you will be rewarded with an additional 20,000 contribution points. Compared to the previous two battles, Gaia's evaluation of Ouyang Shuo had shrunk greatly. Even the rhetoric of great credit was omitted. The additional combat contribution points awarded had also reached its lowest point. Even so, with the 10,000 Iron Cavalry killing enemies on the battlefield, his contribution points were still at the top of the list. Rank, name, contribution points, first. Not wearing clothes, 350,000 points, second. Di Chun, 150,000 points, third. Bai Hua, 120,000 points, fourth. Zhang Lang, 100,000 points, fifth. Feng Xiuhuang, 85,000 points, sixth. Lord Chunshin, 55,000 points, seventh. Dragon-seeking acupuncture point, 50,000 points, eighth. Mulan Yue, 45,000 points, ninth. Xiongba, 45,000 points, 10th. Feng Qingyang, 25,000 points. Unsurprisingly, the contribution points rankings were all occupied by members of the Yanhuang Alliance and the Shanghai Alliance. Apart from Ouyang Shuo, the two sides were evenly matched. With such a battle record, the Yanhuang Alliance had lost in glory. Di Chun, Lord Chunshin, and the others had been promoted to first-class earls with the contribution points they had earned. They had finally cleared the obstacle to third-class county. The next step was to prepare for county cities. Unfortunately, Bai Hua and Feng Xiuhuang had not been able to successfully become third-class marquises through the Battle of Zhongping. The contest between the two marquises had to continue until the next battle. With the increase in the ranks of the lords, the number of soldiers they had increased dramatically. The main way to earn contribution points had changed from being rewarded to killing enemies on the battlefield. For example, in this battle, the Shanghai County Army was 20 times more than the ordinary lords, and 10 times more than Di Chun and the others. The efficiency of earning contribution points from both sides was naturally not on the same level. Therefore, although Di Chun and the others had taken the initiative and made great efforts to plan, they were still unable to compete with Ouyang Shuo on the contribution points rankings. There were advantages and disadvantages. The price paid by such a large army was also heavy. After the battle, the 10,000 elite cavalry of the Shanghai County Army was reduced to 6,500 people. Over 3,000 soldiers were completely buried in Chongping Valley. It was not only Ouyang Shuo, but the other lord's troops had also suffered heavy losses. The two sides had a total of 70,000 inhumans, but less than 30,000 people had returned alive. Ouyang Shuo vaguely remembered that during the upcoming anniversary celebration, Gaia would conduct a small-scale update to the game, which included more settings for the battle. The lords had spent a large amount of money and troops, so it would not be worth it if they only obtained some contribution points. Gaia would introduce more tempting rewards to further stimulate the lord's enthusiasm for participating in the battle. Ouyang Shuo had obtained a total of 39,000 contribution points, bringing his total to 129,500. He had been promoted to a second-class marquis, but he was still far from the 204,800 contribution points required to become a first-class marquis. Ouyang Shuo was not satisfied with the promotion of his marquis rank. What Ouyang Shuo was concerned about was what rewards the Qin Kingdom would give him for taking first place. In the Battle of Zhuolu, Ouyang Shuo had obtained the Yellow Thearka's internal cannon and the Savage Beast Taming Art. In the Battle of Mai, he had obtained the Shang Cauldron and the Incense Essence Pill. The former greatly increased his personal strength, while the latter greatly increased his territory strength. As usual, Bai Hua and the others returned to the main map first, while Ouyang Shuo stayed in the royal tomb camp, waiting for the additional rewards from King Qin. On the 10th day, an official brought King Qin's reward, a jade pendant. Name: Dragon Phoenix Auspicious Pendant, purple gold, type. Accessory characteristics: deterrence greatly increases the wearer's prestige. Aura accumulation aids the wearer's cultivation. Evaluation: Dragon and Phoenix auspicious, symbolizing peace in the world and a bountiful harvest. It is also a sign of nobility and auspiciousness. Auspicious clouds represent good omens and express blessings for the future. The item's characteristics were very simple, but Ouyang Shuo had to figure out the specific effects himself. The jade pendant was naturally a good item, but unfortunately, it was still far from Ouyang Shuo's expectations. He thanked the Qin envoy and hung the Dragon Phoenix auspicious pendant on his body. Ouyang Shuo arrived at the shogunate and bade farewell to the Lord of Martial Peace, Bai Qi. Bai Qi seemed to be waiting for him as he asked, "Did you obtain the reward?" "Yes, I was just about to bid farewell to the Lord of Martial Peace." "All right, let's go," Bai Qi said casually. Ouyang Shuo did not react for a moment as he stammered, "Emui, that's right. Why? Don't you welcome me?" Bai Qi's words were like a huge pie that smashed into Ouyang Shuo's head, making him dizzy. Ouyang Shuo could not understand why Bai Qi would suddenly be willing to go with him when he clearly did not trigger the mission to subdue him. Ouyang Shuo could not be at ease if he did not get to the bottom of this. "I don't understand." Bai Qi had expected this question from Ouyang Shuo, so he said calmly, "The Lord told me that Lin Pe and Zhao Kuo have followed you mutants to the main plane. The kingdom of Qin no longer needs me, so I also want to go to the main plane to experience it. Whether it is your personal ability or the strength of your territory, you're top-notch. Naturally, you are the best choice." Ouyang Shuo suddenly realized that Gaia was behind this. If he was not wrong, subduing Bai Qi was the hidden reward for first place on the military contribution leaderboard. How could a mere jade pendant be enough to send him away? Gaia probably did not only tell Bai Qi about Zhao Kuo. In history, Bai Qi was sentenced to death by King Zhao of Qin not long after the Battle of Chomping. It was no wonder that he was so disheartened. "Lord of Martial Peace, please," Ouyang Shuo said solemnly. Bai Qi shook his head with a lonely expression and said, "There is no Lord of Martial Peace in this world. I am Bai Qi." As he said this, he walked out of the mansion, leaving Ouyang Shuo with a straight back. After everything was done, Ouyang Shuo led his troops back to the main plane. On the way, he checked Bai Qi's attributes. Name: Bai Qi, God level. Title: God of Slaughter, Dynasty. Warring States, Qin. Identity: Shanghai County General. Occupation: Special General. Loyalty: 75. Commander: 98. Martial Strength: 90. Intelligence: 85. Politics: 45. Specialty: Annihilation in battle. Increases troop morale by 40. Relentless pursuit. Increases troop movement speed by 30. Field fortification. Increases troop defense by 20, anticipating enemy movements. Increases troop lethality by 25. Cultivation method. Killing sword manual. 36 forms in total. Equipment. Heavy chain sword evaluation. The head of the 4 great generals of the Warring States period. He is smart, decisive, courageous, and resourceful. He is able to anticipate enemy movements and is extraordinary. He is the #1 god of war throughout the ages. Compared to Shi Wan Sui and Eli, Bai Qi's attributes were even more terrifying. His commander, martial strength, and intelligence were all top-notch. The only thing he lacked was his political attributes. These 4 specialties were a comprehensive upgrade for the army. Impressive Bai Qi. To be continued. Chapter 282. By the time Ouyang Shuo returned to the main plane, it was already the afternoon of the 19th. The moment he walked out of the teleportation channel, he heard a system announcement. System announcement. The Battle of Chomping has officially ended. Key historical figures from the Spring and Autumn period and Warring States period have been added to the game. Please explore on your own. The Spring and Autumn period and Warring States period had countless famous generals, and a great show was about to begin. System announcement. 100 Schools of Thought Jiangshang has secluded himself in Shanghai County, officially triggering the storyline quest 100 Schools of Thought Contend. The 100 Schools of Thought have been added to the game. Please log on to the official website for more details. The announcement caused an uproar among the players. The Spring and Autumn period and Warring States period was about to begin. How could the players not be excited? The attention it attracted instantly diluted the competition between the Yanhuang Alliance and Shanghai Alliance. Fortunately, the Yanhuang Alliance had escaped this calamity and were not condemned by the players. The players logged on to the official website to check the specific quest requirements. Storyline missions, another major mission system apart from military missions, had finally unveiled its mysterious veil. Just like battle quests, storyline quests were also triggered quests. When a certain dynasty was added to the game, historical figures that players had previously subdued could trigger storyline quests. To trigger storyline quests, 3 conditions had to be met. First, historical figures had to be subdued by Lord players. For example, after the Spring and Autumn period and Warring States period were added to the game, players who subdued historical figures of that period would not trigger storyline quests. Second, the dynasty in which the historical quest took place had to be added to the game. For example, Jiangshang had secluded himself in Shanghai County after the Battle of Mai. It was not until the end of the Battle of Chomping that the Spring and Autumn period and Warring States period were added to the game that the storyline, 100 Schools of Thought Contend, was triggered. Third, historical figures had to have the ability to trigger storyline quests. This meant that only those historical figures who played a central role in key historical events could trigger storyline quests. Therefore, the triggering of storyline quests was extremely rare and fortuitous. Correspondingly, once the quest was triggered, the rewards for completing the quest would be extremely generous. Storyline quests were split into single-player quests, faction quests, and map quests. Single-player quests could only be completed by the territory that triggered the quest. Faction quests could be completed by the alliance where the territory was triggered, and map quests, as the name suggested, were open to all players. The types of quests were defined by the historical figures and the influence of the storyline. The 100 Schools Contend quest triggered by Jiangshang was a storyline quest with the largest scope. In his past life, Jiangshang had not been subdued by any player. Thus, the 100 Schools Contend triggered by the other lords in his past life was only a faction storyline. It did not extend to the entire map. The sound of the system notification once again sounded out in Ouyang Shuo's ears. System notification. Congratulations, player. Don't say you don't have clothes. Your territory's resident Jiangshang has triggered the quest, 100 Schools of Thought Contend. Do you wish to accept the A-rank quest, 100 Schools of Thought Contend? Mission name. Reproduce the 100 Schools of Thought Contend. Level A. Mission background. The Warring States period was a great spectacle in the history of Chinese civilization. It was also a way of survival competition in that great era. It cultivated the most robust foundation of Chinese civilization and made that era the immortal peak in the history of human civilization. Mission requirements: recreate the grand occasion of Jixia Academy's gathering of sects in the past. Hold at least one great contention debate with far-reaching influence. At least 3 out of the 9 paths and 10 schools must be stationed in the territory. Completion time: within a year. Mission reward: the territory will receive the title of Cultural Holy Land. The branch mission that Ouyang Shuo received belonged to the person who triggered it. Although the mission seemed to not be simple, and its requirements were extremely harsh, Ouyang Shuo still chose to accept it without the slightest hesitation. System announcement: player Don't Say You Have No Clothes has accepted the A-rank side quest. Reappearance of the 100 Schools Contend. Shanghai County has automatically become the home of the 100 Schools Contend. Its fame will spread far and wide, and its attractiveness to various sects will increase by 50%. As soon as the announcement was made, countless Lord-class players would die of envy. Only now did the players realize that while they were paying attention to 100 Schools of Thought Contend, they had neglected a detail, and that was Jiangshang's seclusion in Shanghai County. Thinking of this, there was another uproar on the national channel. The lords who had participated in the Battle of Mai were even more dumbfounded. They clearly remembered that Sei Wui had chosen to side with the Shang dynasty. How come Jiangshang, who was on the side of the Zhou dynasty, had gone to Shanghai County to live in seclusion? Gossip, shocking gossip. The fire of gossip among the players was burning. Some of the more impatient players even left messages on the national channel, saying that they were ready to go to Shanghai County and pay their respects to the grandmasters of the 100 families. Ouyang Shuo didn't have time to pay attention to the gossip of the players. He arranged for each division to return to their respective encampments. As for the replenishment of soldiers and compensation for the deceased soldiers, he left it to the military administration to handle. Previously, the Eastern Barracks and Western Barracks had been suppressing bandits and clearing obstacles for the construction of the official road. Every time they captured a group of roving bandits, the military administration would select elites from among them and add them to the reserves. As for the funds that the 2 barracks had turned in to suppress the bandits, after paying for the teleportation fees for the Battle of Chongping, there wasn't much left. The elite roving bandits were usually cavalrymen, so they had plenty of soldiers. The Independent Brigade also took this opportunity to return from its original 3,000 soldiers to the standard 2,500 soldiers. The remaining captives selected by the military administration were settled in the nearby Evernight Town, Guangshui Town, and Yishui County. Due to the large number of captives, Evernight Town and Guangshui Town had been successfully promoted to county level. After dealing with the military affairs, Ouyang Shuo personally brought Bai Qi back to the marquee mansion of Lianzhou. After returning to the main plane, Bai Qi suddenly became much younger. From an old general, he had become a middle-aged general in his 30s, returning to his peak state. Ouyang Shuo's arrival alarmed the various division chiefs in the marquee mansion. Ouyang Shuo took the opportunity to introduce Bai Qi to everyone, officially integrating him into the Shanghai County system. Later, Ouyang Shuo brought Bai Qi to the study, and the two of them had a real chance to talk. Not to mention anything else, the two of them had already swapped roles before and after the Battle of Chongping, and they still needed to adapt and adjust. Fortunately, Ouyang Shuo wasn't an arrogant person, and he respected Bai Qi very much. Ouyang Shuo gave a detailed introduction of the situation in Shanghai County, including the situation around the territory and the construction of the army, so that Bai Qi could smoothly adapt to his role. After hearing about the recruit camp in the western suburbs, Bai Qi's interest was greatly aroused, and he expressed his desire to go and take a look. Ouyang Shuo nodded. The Battle of Chongping had ended, and the instructors would return to Shanghai County from Jianya the next day to continue the recruit training that had been delayed due to the war in the grassland. Ouyang Shuo had reason to believe that with Bai Qi's help, the selection of the special forces would be more in line with the characteristics of ancient cold weapons, and they would be able to better combine the two. Bai Qi's willingness to live in the recruit camp solved one of Ouyang Shua's problems, and that was the arrangement of Bai Qi's position. There were no vacancies in the active military departments of Shanghai County. According to his plan, he would only make arrangements after the territory was promoted to a first-class county city, and it just so happened that he needed a period of time. After the discussion, Ouyang Shua called Zisu over and asked her to bring Bai Qi to the official district to choose a house. At the same time, he arranged for 2 maids to take care of Bai Qi's daily life. After the establishment of the Internal Affairs Department, under Ouyang Shua's instructions, the head of the Internal Affairs Department, Zisu, specially recruited and trained a group of maids, and the Marquis's mansion assigned them to the officials of the division chief rank and above. According to the standards set by the Internal Affairs Department, the division chief would be assigned 1 maid, and the division chief would be assigned 2. Shi Wansui and the other generals would be assigned according to the standard of division chief. In addition to taking care of the daily life of the civil and military officials, the maids also had the responsibility of monitoring them. Shanghai County had yet to establish a security department like the Embroidered Uniform Guard, and Ouyang Shua did this as a precaution. Of course, the people he was guarding against were mainly the native officials. As for historical figures like Fan Zhongyan and Shi Wansui, they were really responsible for taking care of the daily life. After everything was settled, Ouyang Shua had the time to log into the official website to check the details of the 100 Schools of Thought mission. According to Gaia's introduction, after the storyline mission was activated, the representatives of the 100 Schools of Thought and their disciples would appear in the wilderness. In a way that the feudal lord could not understand, they would freely roam the various players' territories, either openly or secretly. According to their own standards, they would choose a suitable territory to settle in and establish their sect headquarters. Regardless of the standards, to settle in a territory, a sect had to satisfy 3 basic conditions. Frowny face 1. At least 1 representative of the sect must choose to settle in the territory. They can choose not to become an official. 2. Have a public dojo of the sect as the sect headquarters. 3. The sect must recruit at least 10 disciples in the territory to prove their influence in the territory. One could imagine how difficult the A-rank side mission that Ouyang Shua had received was. Thankfully, there was still time, so he could take it slow. Furthermore, Shanghai County had the home advantage, so it was more attractive than other territories. This was because some sects had more than 1 representative, and the system's criteria was first come, first served. At the same time, it also meant that a sect could only choose 1 territory to settle in. Of course, if a sect had different branches, it was possible to establish multiple sect headquarters at the same time. For example, in history, the school of legalism was divided into 3 factions: force, technique, and governance. It was different from the 100 schools of thought contending in history. Gaia had arranged for the representatives of the various schools of thought to appear together. This way, the representative of the Mahis school, Mozi, could cross time and space to debate with the representative of the Confucian school, Confucius. People of the same sect from different eras could also communicate across space. For example, Mencius finally had the chance to ask Confucius about the true meaning of Confucianism. Wasn't it interesting? This was the charm of the game. Not only that, as the various dynasties and generations joined the game, the representatives of the various sects and sects, as well as their hidden legacies, would appear on the stage of history. The glorious moment of the Chinese civilization would appear in the game. To be continued. Chapter 283. The 100 Schools of Thought Contend. Storyline mission covered a wide area and took a long time. Ouyang Shua did not know where to start and could only take it 1 step at a time. The only thing he could do now was to order the construction department to open up a courtyard in Southwest University China Hall as a 100 Schools of Thought lecture to prepare for the great debate in the future. Ouyang Shua was most concerned about the promotion of his territory. He opened the territory control panel and clicked on the application for territory promotion. A series of system notifications sounded in his ears. It was nothing more than a basic test. System notification. Testing Shanghai County's promotion requirements. Requirement 1. Population reaches 100,000. The maximum population limit is met. Requirement 2. All basic buildings have been completed. The requirements are met. Requirement 3. The feudal lord must be at least a third-class marquis. The requirements are met. Requirement 4. The political, economic, cultural, and military indexes must be at least 65 points. The requirements are met. Requirement 5. The core subsidiary territory must be at least a first-grade county town. The requirements are met. Compared to the county town stage, there was an additional requirement for 3 subsidiary territories. This was equivalent to reminding the feudal lords not to neglect the construction of their subsidiary territories during the county town stage. System notification. Congratulations to player who says that nothing has established Shanghai County. All requirements have been met. Do you wish to apply for the promotion? Yes. System notification. Congratulations to player who says that nothing has successfully applied for territory promotion mission. Mission 1, Recruit Talents. Requires at least 1 historical talent to volunteer to become an official in the territory. Mission 2, Merchant Guild Entry. Requires an NPC merchant guild to agree to enter the territory and prosper the economy. Mission 3, Cultural Festival. Organize a cultural festival with a certain level of influence. Mission 4, Army Trial. Requires a division to pass the Army Trial and prove its military strength. System notification. Out of the 4 promotion missions, at least 2 must be completed to be promoted. The more missions completed, the more generous the rewards will be. The 4 promotion missions were a test of the territory's politics, economy, culture, and military to prove the huge difference between a county town and a county town. Just as the system had said, every overlord would be matched with a different promotion mission when they applied for promotion. Overall, the difficulty of the missions were all the same. The promotion missions had no time limit and no penalty for failure. If one could not complete 2 of the missions, the territory would not be able to be promoted and could not reapply. This was the greatest punishment. Ouyang Shua's goal was naturally to complete all 4 advancement missions and obtain the highest advancement reward. The next day, Ouyang Shua gathered Fan Zhongyan, Cui Yingyu, and Bai Qi to distribute the territory promotion mission. Fan Zhongyan led the administrative office and was in charge of preparing for the cultural event. Yingyu was in charge of contacting the Cui Family Chamber of Commerce and discussing the matter of setting up a branch in Shanghai County. Bai Qi was in charge of military affairs and was in charge of the army training. What he was most uncertain about was still the recruitment of virtuous scholars. Ouyang Shua could only inform the various royal city offices and let them be in charge of searching for historical talents. He would do his best and leave it to fate. After the distribution was done, everyone stood up and took their leave. Before Yingyu left, she glanced strangely at Ouyang Shua and said, "Big brother, why do I feel that after you went out for a trip, even your temperament has changed?" "Really?" "That's right. You become even more dignified. This little sister was truly stunned when I first saw you." Ouyang Shua nodded. He knew that the Dragon Phoenix auspicious pendant that Emperor Qin had rewarded him with was indeed showing its effects. The jade pendant's 2 major characteristics, deterrence and qi accumulation, had gradually revealed its ferocity. Last night, when he was practicing the Yellow Emperor's Canon of Internal Medicine, he could clearly feel that under the stimulation of the Dragon Phoenix auspicious pendant, the true qi in his body was increasing at a faster rate. Within a few days, he would be able to practice the Yellow Emperor's Canon of Internal Medicine to the 5th level. According to the Yellow Emperor's Canon of Internal Medicine, when he broke through to the 6th level, there would be a fortuitous encounter, which was worth looking forward to. After Yingyu left, Ouyang Shua began to deal with the accumulated government affairs. His secretary, Lang Bai Nanpu, had already arranged the official letters according to a certain priority and placed them on his desk. Ouyang Shua picked up an official letter. It was handed to him by the Gushin County Magistrate, Lei Fan. In the official letter, Lei Fan mentioned that the matter of contacting the various tribes in a mountain was progressing smoothly. When spring came next year, a large number of mountain barbarians would descend the mountain. In addition, Lei Fan also specifically mentioned in the official letter that the mountain barbarians in the north seemed to be a little unusual. Seeing that winter was about to come, some tribes had unexpectedly moved deep into the mountain. It was unknown why. Lei Fan speculated that there should be some major changes deep in the mountain. He had already arranged for spies to go to the mountain to investigate. Because this matter was of great importance, Lei Fan had specially reported this matter to the Marquis's residence, asking for the Marquis's judgment. Ouyang Shua frowned. The mountain barbarian tribes were an important source of infantry for Shanghai County. Even the slightest accident could not be tolerated. He replied in the official letter, requesting the Military Intelligence Department to immediately intervene in the investigation. The head of the Internal Affairs Department, Tian Wenjing, would mediate. Putting aside his worries about the mountain barbarians, Ouyang Shua continued to deal with government affairs. The official letter in his hand was handed to him by Meng Jida, the head shopkeeper of the Bank of the Four Seas, who had just taken office not long ago. In the official letter, Meng Jida suggested Shanghai County to issue banknotes. In ancient China, banknotes had been issued during the Southern Song dynasty. Therefore, banknotes could not be considered a product that surpassed the technology tree. In the game, if the territory wanted to issue banknotes, two basic conditions must be met. First, the hardware to print banknotes. At least, there must be a paper and printing workshop in the territory. The paper could also be purchased from outside, but the printing had to be done by the territory itself. In addition, there must be professional technicians who were proficient in banknote printing to solve a series of problems, such as the design of banknotes, anti-counterfeiting, and so on. Second, the establishment of currency credibility. If the issued banknotes were not recognized by the outside world, then they would be a piece of waste paper without any value. In order to establish currency credibility, the first step was to establish a complete reserve fund system. Taking Shanghai County as an example, if they wanted to issue banknotes, the first choice would naturally be the Bank of the Four Seas. In the early stages, for every 100 gold coins banknotes issued by the Bank of the Four Seas, the corresponding 100 gold coins had to be stored in the bank's treasury. During the Southern Song dynasty, because the imperial court issued a large number of banknotes and did not prepare enough reserves, it indirectly plundered the wealth of the people, causing the banknotes to depreciate and eventually lose credibility. It was not that Ouyang Shua had no plans for the issuance of banknotes. It was just that according to his plan, it would at least be issued in the later stages of the game. It seemed too early to issue it now. If it had been someone else's suggestion, Ouyang Shua would naturally have vetoed it. Meng Jida was different. He was a professional financial genius and a steady person. Since he had made this suggestion, he must have had his own considerations. Ouyang Shua thought for a moment, then raised his head and said, "Come." "Yes." Bainanpu walked in. "Invite shopkeeper Meng Jida of the Bank of the Four Seas." Ouyang Shua paused, then continued, "And Division Chief Chui, to discuss the matter." "Yes, sir." Inyu was next door to Ouyang Shua. After a while, she rushed over. "Big brother, are you looking for me? Do you know about the Bank of the Four Seas proposal to issue banknotes?" "Yes, I know. Shopkeeper Meng reported it to me. What's your opinion?" Inyu frowned and said carefully, "At first, when Shopkeeper Meng reported it to me, I thought that the so-called banknotes and banknotes were the same thing. After Shopkeeper Meng explained it to me, I realized that they were completely different concepts. To be honest, I'm not too sure about this new thing, but it seems like it's not bad." Ouyang Shua nodded. Although Inyu was cramming up on modern financial knowledge, when it came to currency issues, her knowledge was still somewhat lacking. She couldn't make a decision. No wonder Meng Jida had sent the official letter to Ouyang Shua. It was probably Inyu's intention. As the siblings were chatting, Meng Jida hurried over. When he saw the official letter in Ouyang Shua's hand, he already knew what was going on. "Uncle Meng, in principle, I agree to the issuance of banknotes. It's just that in terms of time, shouldn't we push it back a little?" Ouyang Shua always went straight to the point when discussing matters. I think that now is the right time to issue banknotes. Oh, tell me about it. Ouyang Shua didn't expect Meng Jida to be so sure. It greatly increased his interest. There are 4 reasons. First, as the territory's economy began to flourish, the trade volume gradually increased. Merchants have no choice but to bring a large amount of gold coins to trade with them. It's very inconvenient to carry them around. Ouyang Shua nodded. NPCs didn't have storage bags like players. 1 gold coin was 20 grams of gold, so 1,000 gold coins would be 40 kilograms. It needed to be specially arranged for people to carry it. In ancient times, banknotes came into being to solve this problem. Second, as the subsidiary territories were promoted to county cities, the trade between the territories gradually began to flourish. For example, Beihai County seafood and salt were sold through the Friendship River and Qiushui River to various places in Tianfeng County. Yongye County's timber was sold to Beihai County. All of these things gave rise to the birth of banknotes. Meng Jidao's words made Ouyang Shua silent. The information revealed in the words was enough to make him vigilant. The rise of the territory's trade was unexpectedly not noticed by him, the Lord. It seemed that the recent frequent military operations had indeed taken up too much of his time and energy. If it was in the past, this situation definitely wouldn't have happened. Fortunately, Bai Qi's arrival could release Ouyang Shua from military affairs to the greatest extent. Now that he realized it, it wasn't too late. Third, the Bank of the Four Seas has sufficient funds and has the objective conditions to issue banknotes. In early October, Ouyang Shua injected 40,000 gold coins into the Bank of the Four Seas headquarters. This amount of funds was also the source of Meng Jida's confidence in issuing banknotes. Fourth, the issuing of banknotes cannot be done in one go. It requires a long period of preparation. Naturally, the earlier we start, the better. Meng Jida slowly explained, listing out the 4 main reasons. Ouyang Shua nodded repeatedly. He was completely convinced by Meng Jida. He said, "Uncle Meng's words have enlightened me. Since that's the case, let's do it. Tell me your specific plan." To be continued. Chapter 284. After obtaining Ouyang Shua's approval, Meng Jida began to explain his currency plan. Most importantly, there was a banknote printing bureau in the Bank of the Four Seas headquarters that was in charge of printing banknotes. The Bank of the Four Seas planned to issue banknotes of 10 gold coins, 20 gold coins, 50 gold coins, and 100 gold coins. There were no copper coins or silver coins, nor were there any denominations below 10 gold coins. According to Meng Jida's vision, paper money would be positioned as a high-end currency, mainly used for bulk commodity transactions. As for the daily consumption of the common people, they mainly used copper coins, silver coins, and gold coins. What Ouyang Shua needed to do was to purchase the papermaking technique manual, printing technique manual, the blueprints of the papermaking workshop, and the blueprints of the printing workshop. It just so happened that Ingyu wanted to discuss the matter of setting up a branch in Shanhai County with the Chui clan's merchant group. So Ouyang Shua simply entrusted all the purchasing matters to Ingyu. At the same time, he instructed Ingyu to recruit a group of skilled craftsmen from Dali through the Chui Merchants Association. Taking this opportunity, Ingyu proposed a reform of the territory's finance and taxation. She said, as the territory's economy smoothly passed the incubation period and began to prosper, the tax rates set during the privatization period are no longer appropriate. The finance department believes that the time is ripe to raise the tax rate. Ouyang Shua was speechless. Back then, he had set the tax rate of 1 out of 30 in order to encourage the development of the handicraft industry and commerce, and to successfully incubate the private economy. The facts proved that Ouyang Shua's decision back then was correct. With the help of the low tax rate and the low-interest loans from the Bank of the Four Seas, the private economy of Shanhai County was booming, and the tax revenue of the territory was increasing. Just as Ingyu said, since the original intention had been achieved, it was imperative to adjust the tax rate to a normal level. Otherwise, the territory's economy would have been unprecedentedly prosperous but the territory's finances would not have benefited from it. The reason why the territory raised taxes and increased revenue was not to amass wealth, but to better invest the revenue into public services and infrastructure construction. What level does the finance department think the tax rate should be adjusted to? Ouyang Shua asked. 20 for 1. 20 tax for 1? Is this the final opinion of the Ministry of Finance? No, in fact, the most suitable tax rate should be 15%, but Inyu was a little hesitant. Just what? The finance department is worried that the sudden change in tax rates will easily cause dissatisfaction among the people. Ouyang Shua shook his head and said, the tax rate is the territory's policy, and it can't be changed at any time. It must be maintained. Since they were going to make adjustments, they had to be done in one step. You have to overcome some pressure when you have to. Understood. With Ouyang Shua expressing his support, Inyu had more confidence in pushing the plan forward. She continued, in addition to taxes, there's also the issue of turning over the revenue of the subsidiary territories. The opinion of the Ministry of Finance is that 70% of the tax revenue of the subsidiary territories should be handed over to the House of the Marquis, and then the House of the Marquis will allocate it. Ouyang Shua frowned. Financial power was not an independent entity. It had to be unified with administrative power. How about this? The Finance Bureau will consult the Economic Advisor again and formulate a detailed fiscal reform plan. After the territory is promoted, we will discuss the implementation. Ouyang Shua put aside the Finance Bureau's proposal. All right, Inyu said, a little discouraged. In the next few days, Shanghai County was completely busy with the advancement mission. The first to make progress was the second mission, move into the Chamber of Commerce. After negotiations between Shanghai County and Shui's Chamber of Commerce, it was agreed that Shui's Chamber of Commerce would set up a branch in Shanghai County to purchase goods from Shanghai County. Seafood and salt from Beihai County, tea and herbs from Poole County, furs from Yui County, timber from Yongye County, mountain product from Gushin County, and so on were all within the scope of Shui's Chamber of Commerce. At the same time, Shui's Chamber of Commerce also opened a shop in Shanghai County to sell goods that were scarce in Shanghai County. For example, stationery, porcelain, spices, jade ornaments, embroidery, and so on. The establishment of the Chamber of Commerce not only promoted the export of the territory's goods, but also enriched the territory's source of goods. It further improved the territory's product structure and stimulated the territory's economy. It could be said to be killing two birds with one stone. In addition, Shui's Bank was also introduced to Shanghai County to compete with the Bank of the Four Seas. If the Bank of the Four Seas loans were mostly supportive, then Shui's Bank was purely an investment. Whether it was the pottery factory outside the city, Lu Guangji's wooden ox processing workshop, or even Tianfeng County Sheila Lake Pearl breeding base, they all became the investment targets of Shui's Bank. These invested workshops would welcome another opportunity for development. Towards these external investments, Ouyang Shua's attitude was only one. He would not refuse any. Of course, the three-flower winery, mulberry garden, tea garden, and other industries controlled by the Finance Bureau were listed as non-investment targets. Next, Ouyang Shua planned to lower the logging and quarries controlled by the Material Reserve Department into the scope of private investment. The Material Reserve Department would only retain strategic resources such as copper, iron, and gold mines. All of this was to further revitalize the territory's economy. Shui's Chamber of Commerce not only brought goods and funds, but also a large number of craftsmen and craftsmen. In the northern commercial street, Shui's Chamber of Commerce built a magnificent restaurant, Shanghai Garden. Shanghai Garden was a combination of dining, accommodation, leisure, and entertainment. More than 10 chefs brought delicacies from all over the world. The hired troupe performed every day, including acrobatics, face-changing, singing, and dancing. It was no wonder that one of the shareholders of Sanger Restaurant, the little money grubber Chinger, cried, "The wolf is coming." In the face of such competition, Ouyang Shua naturally did not help either side. Whether Sanger Restaurant could survive in the face of such a strong competitor like Shanghai Garden depended on the ability of the shopkeeper, Gu Sanyang. The Chamber of Commerce's entry into Shanghai County injected a pool of living water into the economy. Naturally, Ouyang Shuo was happy to see this happen. Task 3. Cultural Festival. The Administrative Bureau also made some progress. Fan Zhongyan and the Director of Culture and Education, Su Shuda, suggested holding a grand Mazu temple fair. During the Lantern Festival, Ouyang Shuo had the idea of holding a temple fair, but because of the limited conditions, he could only change it to the Lantern Festival. The current Shanghai County was naturally not comparable to the Shanghai town of the past. It already had the conditions to hold a festival, and with the Chui's Chamber of Commerce's entry, it made up for the shortcomings of Shanghai County. The task clearly required that the festival must have a certain influence. Since it must have influence, the people who came to participate in the Mazu Temple Fair could not be limited to the people of Shanghai County. There must be people from outside. Ouyang Shuo first thought of the allies of the Shanghai Alliance, but after thinking about it, he felt that it was inappropriate. First, they were all players, and second, the number of people was too small to be considered influential. In the end, Su Shuda had a way. He proposed to spread the story of the appearance of the Mazu Temple statue in Shanghai County in Chuanzhou, so as to attract the gentry, merchants, and commoners of Chuanzhou to Shanghai County to participate in the Mazu Temple Fair. Ouyang Shuo slapped his head, annoyed at his own stupidity. In reality, Fujian was the birthplace of Mazu culture. If the natives of Chuanzhou knew that the Mazu statue had appeared in Shanghai County, they would definitely be excited and would definitely come to pay their respects at all costs. Ouyang Shuo immediately informed the Chuanzhou office of Shanghai County to handle the matter. In order to achieve a better publicity effect, Su Shuda also embellished the story of the Mazu Temple Fair, wrote a beautiful article, and asked the office to post it in front of the entrance of the station. Mazu occupied an extremely important position in the hearts of the people of Fujian. As soon as the news came out, it immediately caused a frenzy. At first, they did not believe it. When someone was teleported to Shanghai County, they saw the faint divine light emitted by the Mazu statue, and all of them knelt down to worship it. Thus, the news of the Mazu miracle appearing in Shanghai County suddenly spread in Chuanzhou. There was an endless stream of gentry, merchants, and commoners of Shanghai County and Chuanzhou. Some believers with strong faith even immediately moved their families to Shanghai County to settle down. The development of the matter was beyond Ouyang Shuo's expectations. In order to settle down these believers, Ouyang Shuo had no choice but to move part of the population of Shanghai County to Yongye County and Guangshui County to settle down. Some impatient believers could not wait for Shanghai County to make room, so they simply chose to settle down in Poolwater County, Yuyi County, and Beihai County. Not only could they solve their livelihood problems, but they could also pay their respects to the Mazu statue nearby. Among them, Beihai County attracted the most believers. This was because most of these believers were fishermen. When they found out that there was such a place like Beihai County, they were wild with joy. Putting aside the issue of faith, there were many fishermen in the waters of Chuanzhou. Coupled with overfishing, the competition between the fishermen was intense. How could it compare to the virgin land of Beihai Bay that had yet to be developed? Every day after that, thousands of natives chose to settle down in Shanghai County. Shanghai County could not afford such a huge teleportation fee, so the natives had to pay for it themselves. Even so, it did not stop the determination and passion of the natives to worship Mazu. Even if they had to pay for it themselves, they were willing to do so. In the end, there was even a situation where the entire fishing village was moved to Beihai County. Beihai County Magistrate Gu Xiuan was naturally overjoyed. He swept away the haze of being overtaken by Poolwater County and mobilized all the departments in Beihai County to settle down the natives that had been moved. According to the statistics, the number of Chuanzhou natives that had been moved to Beihai County alone had reached more than 10,000. These natives were not penniless like the refugees. They were wealthy and had families to support them. Beihai County welcomed another opportunity for development. Other than Beihai County, Yuyi County and Poolwater County also had 5,000 to 6,000 immigrants. As for Shanghai County, it was the largest. The number of immigrants had exceeded 20,000, and it was still increasing. At the same time, it meant that more than 20,000 people had been settled down in Yongye County and Guanshui County. The population of both counties had exceeded the 20,000 mark, and they were promoted to second-class counties. 40,000 immigrants was a huge number for Shanghai County. However, for Chuanzhou, it was just a drop in the bucket. To be continued. Chapter 285. With the passage of time, the immigration wave triggered by the Mazu Temple gradually spread from the common people to the gentry and merchants of Chuanzhou. Shanghai County's beautiful natural environment, reasonable urban planning, good public security, clean government, strong business atmosphere, and cultural connotation all attracted the attention of the gentry and merchants. Southwest University China Hall, Yellow Emperor Shrine, Recruitment Hall, Shangding, and other buildings all attracted people's attention. Only then did they realize that there was such a paradise outside the wilderness. Shanghai County had always been thirsty for talents, and both sides hit it off. Like a sluice gate opened, a large number of gentry and merchants began to choose to settle in Shanghai County. Among them, there were children of poor families, scholars, and there was no lack of talented people. After settling down, they either entered Southwest University China Hall or entered an official career. Because of Jiangshang, Southwest University China Hall was more attractive to scholars, and most of the scholars from poor families chose to enter an official career. The merchants, on the other hand, opened shops in Shanghai County. Some merchants with a keen sense of smell even specialized in the Mazu Temple business, selling incense, candles, and other goods for worship, and made a lot of money. After a detailed inspection of Shanghai County, especially after seeing that the Chui Chamber of Commerce was doing well in Shanghai County, some chambers of commerce in Chuanzhou also had the idea of opening branches in Shanghai County. The flow of people brought a large number of customers to the newly opened Shanghai Garden, which was really enviable to others. Faced with such a good opportunity, Ouyang Shua immediately informed the Director of Commerce, Su Jinchang, and asked the department to prepare a business fair to introduce the investment policies and business environment of Shanghai County in detail to attract large chambers of commerce. The administrative office was not idle either. In cooperation with the Census Bureau, they specially held a talent recruitment meeting to select talents to fill the various departments and affiliated territories of Shanghai County. In short, the immigration wave caused by the Mazu Temple was far more effective than the talent recruitment that the Chui Chamber of Commerce had previously carried out in Dali. This made Ouyang Shua very happy. The grand occasion in front of him confirmed an old saying, "Flowers planted intentionally do not bloom, but willows planted unintentionally grow." The strong talent reserve laid a solid foundation for Shanghai County to be promoted to a county city. Ouyang Shua was still worried about the new round of talent shortage after his territory was promoted to a county city. According to the current immigration trend, there was more than enough, and there was no need to worry about the talent shortage. As for the original Mazu Temple Fair, with the support of the Chambers of Commerce in Chuanzhou, it was unprecedentedly grand. Mazu's great influence even alarmed the Chuanzhou Imperial Court. They specially sent officials from the Ministry of Rights to Shanghai County to inspect it and present a plaque with the words Mazu Temple bestowed by the emperor. As a result, the faith of Mazu spread like wildfire. What made Ouyang Shua wild with joy was that after receiving the blessing of the incense, the Mazu Temple was directly unsealed. System notice: the Mazu statue has received the blessing of incense and has been officially unsealed. It has regained its original appearance and divine power. The Mazu Temple stats have also been greatly increased. Please check for yourself. Mazoff of Mazu. The Temple of Mazu of Shanaf. Such a miracle made the believers who were worshiping in the temple so excited that their eyes brimmed with tears of excitement. Of nation of Chuanzhou of Zhou of people of Zhou of county of the people of temple. The people of Chuanzhou firmly believed that it was their piety that moved Ma Zu. Thus, she sent down a miracle to bless the believers. Tan, dynasty of Shan of, and of earth, hall of mountain, hype, hidden building function, spreading Ma Zu's faith, increasing resident satisfaction by 30 and territory popularity by 10. Characteristics: sea god's blessing, increases the fleet's ability to withstand storms at sea by 40. Wind and waves, increases the ship's speed by 30. Evaluation: Ma Zu, the belief of the sea god, centered on the southeast coast of China. After the Ma Zu temple was unsealed, its architectural function was greatly improved. Not only that, but also derived a second architectural characteristic, riding the wind and waves, which increased the sailing speed of the ship, as expected of the sea god. With these two characteristics, the Shanghai County Navy was not far from dominating the ocean. With the lifting of the seal on the Ma Zu temple, this Ma Zu festival came to a successful end. Ma Zu temple also became an important bridge between Chuanzhou and Shanghai County. Although the banquet had come to an end, the repercussions did not stop. Although the peak period of immigration had passed, there were still hundreds of Chuanzhou natives rushing to Shanghai County every day, either to pay their respects to Ma Zu or to settle down here. As Chuanzhou gradually became familiar with Shanghai County, the group of immigrants had long spread from pure believers to talents from all walks of life who came to Shanghai County to make a living. The scene that happened in Shanghai County caused the lords of the world to raise their eyebrows. There were those who were envious, those who slandered him, and those who sincerely congratulated him. There were all kinds of people. No matter what the outside world said, Ouyang Shuo remained unmoved. After the end of the Ma Zu Temple Festival, Ouyang Shuo handed over the immigration and investment matters to the administrative office and the finance office. The recruited talents were also temporarily settled by Fan Zhongyan. When the territory was promoted to a county city, a unified arrangement would be made. It was a qualitative breakthrough from a county to a county city. In terms of government structure, there must be a major reform. The relevant personnel arrangement was already brewing in Ouyang Shuo's mind. After the festival, Ouyang Shuo's eyes began to turn to task 4, Army Trial. Army Trial required a division to pass the Army Trial. Shanghai County currently only had one division. Logically speaking, there was no need to hesitate. He could directly arrange for the first division to go through the trial. The problem was, after Ouyang Shuo carefully looked at the setting of the Army Trial in the system, he hesitated. According to the setting of the system, troops of a division and above could go through the Army Trial. After the trial was completed, they would obtain the exclusive Army specialty and be awarded the Army flag. The key problem was that after passing the trial, the soldiers of the division who participated in the trial could not be mobilized on a large scale. Otherwise, the acquired specialty would automatically become invalid. This setting was to prevent some lords from taking advantage of loopholes and using the territory's elite troops to cheat and help other divisions complete the trial. The establishment of the 1st Division in Shanghai County was just a stopgap measure. The 1st Division was scattered in the west, north, and east of the city. They did not belong to each other and would definitely be separated in the future. The task of Army Trial forced Ouyang Shuo to reorganize the army in advance. He handed this task to Bai Qi, who was fully responsible for it. Gu Hongliang, the head of the military affairs office, would assist him from the side. Bai Qi's position was still undecided. Ouyang Shuo only gave him the temporary title of Chief Military Affairs, which was equivalent to the Commander-in-Chief of the Army during wartime. He gave Bai Qi full authority to lead the army of Shanghai County. Since arriving in Shanghai County, other than staying in the recruit camp in the western suburbs, Bai Qi had already visited the 3 camps in the west, north, and east of the city, inspecting the entire army of Shanghai County. After a week of on-site inspection and deliberation, Bai Qi finally came up with his plan to adjust the army. In the study of the Marquis's mansion, only Ouyang Shuo, Bai Qi, and Gu Hongliang were present. This showed the high level of the meeting. Bai Qi did not directly throw out the army adjustment plan. Instead, he first explained the problems he had discovered. After inspection, I found that there are a few main problems with the army of Shanghai County. First, the division is not balanced. There are more cavalry than infantry. In the 1st Division, including the Imperial Guard Brigade and the Independent Brigade, 5 out of the 7 brigades were cavalry brigades. This did not include the light cavalry battalions of the 1st and 3rd Brigades. Cavalry accounted for 70% to 80% of the army. Second, they did not attach importance to reconnaissance and logistics. Not only were the brigades not equipped with specialized scouts and Cook's army, but even the 1st Division did not have such a structure. It was really unimaginable. The Military Intelligence Department was responsible for military reconnaissance before the battle. During the battle, reconnaissance should be done by the troops participating in the battle. Military rations pills could not completely replace the role of rations. There was a need for Cook's army to exist. Third, there was a mix of light and heavy infantry. The infantry and cavalry were seriously mixed up. Take the 1st and 4th Brigades that were stationed in the West Camp as an example. There were mountain barbarian heavy infantry that moved extremely slowly, and there was also light cavalry that was known for their speed. As a result, the overall speed of the army was completely dragged down by the mountain barbarian heavy infantry, and the advantage of light cavalry was buried. Fourth, there were few types of soldiers. In the entire division, there were only light and heavy cavalry, saber and shield soldiers, pikemen, and archers. Crossbowmen, pikemen, sword and shield soldiers, and other types of soldiers had disappeared. Bai Qi's analysis made Ouyang Shuo feel ashamed. Originally, he was very proud of his army's reorganization. Now, it seemed that it was full of loopholes and was completely nonsensical. Ouyang Shuo solemnly stood up and bowed to Bai Qi. "General, please enlighten me." Gu Hongliang's face was also red. As the head of the Military Affairs Department, he did not fulfill his duty of assisting the Marquis and perfecting the structure of the army. It was really incompetent. Gu Hongliang could not be blamed. Previously, when he was in the Imperial Army, he was only a staff officer of a brigade. How could he have handled such a large army? His knowledge was limited. Other than Gu Hongliang, there were only 3 historical generals who had the ability to remind Ouyang Shuo. Sure, Wan Sui could be considered the one with the higher military attainments among the 3 generals. However, with his nature, even if he realized that something was wrong, he would not think too much about it. As long as he could fight, what was the point of caring about these things? There was no need to talk about Eli. He was born in the Shang dynasty, and his military theory was still in its infancy. He was also a fierce general, so how could he understand these things? Luo Shixin had just joined the army not long ago, and his experience was still shallow. Naturally, he would not speak nonsense. As a result, the current situation was created. It was completely up to Ouyang Shuo, a layman, to reorganize the army step by step according to his own understanding and develop it to its current scale. Thinking about it carefully, it was actually not easy. It was only until Bai Qi's arrival that the weak side of Shanghai County's army was completely exposed. Ouyang Shuo could not help but rejoice in his heart. He rejoiced that Bai Qi had arrived at Shanghai County before the expansion of the army had reached an unmanageable state. To be continued. Chapter 286. After talking about the shortcomings of the army, Bai Qi summarized the advantages of the army of Shanghai County. Although there are many problems with the army, it has a solid foundation, excellent equipment, and a large number of valiant generals. Is still promising. Ouyang Shuo's spirit was shaken, and his gloomy mood was slightly relieved. After analyzing the advantages and disadvantages, Bai Qi threw out the army reorganization plan. The first thing to do is to solve the problem of the 3 camps not being under each other, but also belonging to the same division. I suggest that the 1st Division be divided into 3 divisions, with an independent division stationed in each camp. In view of the problem of military strength, we can prioritize the establishment of a division and let participate in the army training. The remaining 2 divisions can be gradually expanded. Ouyang Shuo nodded. Bai Qi's thinking was the same as his when he first established the 1st Division. Frequent changes in the army were a big taboo. Therefore, every time there was a reorganization, it was necessary to leave some advance, especially when it was a major reorganization. The 1st Division is stationed in the West Camp. The current commander of the West Camp, Shi Wansui, is an expert in both infantry and cavalry, and is a rare general. Therefore, the 1st Division is a mixed infantry and cavalry division with 5 brigades, blade and shield soldiers, pikemen, archers, crossbowmen, and light cavalry. The blade and shield soldiers are not the mountain barbarian heavy infantry, but mainly light armor. They cooperate with other light infantry to increase the mobility of the division. Ouyang Shuo was silent. Bai Qi changed the pikemen to pikemen and added the crossbowmen that he had abandoned. The combination of military types was indeed more reasonable. The 2nd Division is stationed in the North Camp. When the North Camp was first established, it was a pure cavalry. This time, there is no need to change it. It is still a cavalry division, with 2 heavy cavalry brigades, 2 light cavalry brigades, and 1 crossbow cavalry brigade. Bai Qi intentionally avoided the question of the commander of the North Camp. Even if Ouyang Shuo gave him the authority of overall military affairs, it was not good for him to express his opinion on important personnel matters. It was all up to Ouyang Shuo. The commander of the North Camp, Lin Yi, was only a mid-level general. He could not lead a division. Ouyang Shuo had already made arrangements for the commander of the North Camp, and there was a suitable general in the army now. The 3rd Division is stationed in the East Camp. The current commander of the Eastern Barracks, Eli, was a pure and fierce general who was not very good at cavalry warfare. Therefore, the 3rd Division can be classified as an infantry division. Under are 2 mountain barbarian heavy infantry brigades, 2 pikemen brigades, and 1 great blade brigade. The Mo Dao was a type of Tang Dao with a long handle. It was used by infantrymen and was used to kill horses. It weighed 15 jin and was also known as a machete. It was 7 chi long, with a 3 chi blade and a 4 chi handle. When wielded by a strong man, the strength of the waist would turn everything in its path into powder. It was mostly used against cavalry and was extremely powerful. The Mo sword was another weapon from the Tang dynasty that the Weapons Workshop had recently acquired. It had yet to be officially equipped in the army, but Bai Qi had already investigated it and even incorporated it into the army's reorganization plan. When he spoke up to hear, Ouyang Shuo had already understood Bai Qi's plan, and he said with a smile, "General means to establish the 2nd Division first. Not bad. Integrate the 4th Brigade of the Western Barracks, the 2nd Brigade of the Northern Barracks, the Independent Brigade, and the 5th Brigade of the Eastern Barracks. As long as a heavy cavalry brigade is formed, the formation will be complete." Bai Qi tactfully did not mention the integration of the Imperial Guard Brigade. As Ouyang Shuo's personal army, the Imperial Guard Brigade naturally had to take the opportunity to be independent of the 3 divisions. In addition, the 1st Brigade stationed in the Western Barracks needed to exchange 2 Mountain Barbarian Heavy Infantry battalions for the 3rd Brigade's Archer Battalion and Light Cavalry Battalion to complete the army reorganization. After talking about the structure of the 3 divisions, Bai Qi continued, "According to the military establishment, each division also needs to be equipped with a direct company of 1,000 people. According to my plan, from the 1,000 people, 500 people will be transferred to form the division commander's personal guard battalion. The remaining 500 people will be formed by a reconnaissance squadron, an engineering squadron, a military doctor squadron, and 2 Cook's Army squadrons to form a wartime support battalion. In the future, if conditions permit, the division commander will also be equipped with combat staff officers, quartermasters, clerks, military judges, and other support personnel." Bai Qi's reorganization plan basically solved the 4 problems he had pointed out before. The last point he mentioned directly poked at Zhongshan High County's weak spot. The Southwest University China Academy was only responsible for nurturing civil officials. As for military officials, there was nothing they could do. Without these supporting military officials, marching and fighting would be a mess, and they could not be considered a qualified regular army. Right now, they could only take it one step at a time. At this time, Ouyang Shua was especially envious of the werewolves. They did not need to worry about these things at all. Ouyang Shua calculated. In order to expand the 3 divisions, they would need to replenish 25,500 people, including 1,500 logistical support soldiers. They would need to coordinate with the Military Intelligence Division, the Divine Arms Battalion, the Official Medical Bureau, and the Combat Readiness Division. Not to mention other things. Just the occupation change fee alone would exceed 15,000 gold coins. They would also need to be equipped with weapons and equipment. Just the thought of it was terrifying, not to mention the subsequent military expenses and pay. Although the burden of military expenses was huge, on the other hand, once the reorganization was in place, the Shanghai County Army would experience a rebirth and complete a magnificent transformation. Good. We will reorganize according to this plan. Ouyang Shua made the decision. Then, he turned to look at Go Hongliang and asked, Division Chief Go, how many reserve soldiers are left? After the Battle of Chongping, the various divisions have already replenished their soldiers. There are about 5,000 reserve soldiers left. Ouyang Shua fell silent. The previous round of army expansion, coupled with the expenditure in the war, had already exhausted the reserve soldiers. It was already not easy to have 5,000 soldiers left. However, this number of soldiers was not even 1/5 of what was needed to expand the army. The difference was too great. If they recruited new soldiers, not only would the training time be long, but the soldiers' combat prowess would also not be guaranteed. Seeing the Marquis remain silent, Bai Qi and Gu Hongliang could only wait quietly at the side. After a long time, Ouyang Shua recovered his wits. His expression was resolute, and he made a decision in his heart. He said, the reorganization of the army cannot be delayed. No matter how great the difficulty, we must overcome it. I have 3 requests. I will leave the specific reorganization work to the 2 of you. You must ensure that the reorganization is completed before the end of the year. Marquis, please explain. First, the 3rd Division's 2 heavy infantry brigades and the MO Blade Brigade must all be barbarian soldiers. The shortage of soldiers will be filled by the Minister of Internal Affairs, Tian Wenjing, and the Gushan County Magistrate, Lei Fan. The MO Blade Brigade needed strongmen. Naturally, they had to be barbarian soldiers. With Gushan County as the foundation, Ouyang Shua believed that it would not be difficult to recruit 5,000 soldiers. Second, reorganize the city defense battalions and city guard brigades. There will be 3 city guard brigades in Shanghai County, Choshui County, and Yuyi County. There will be 3 city defense battalions in Yishui County, Yongye County, and Guanshui County. In addition to the 2 city defense battalions in Tianfeng County, there will be a total of 10,000 soldiers. They will all be organized into the 3 divisions. Together with the existing reserve soldiers, the last 3,000 soldiers gap will be filled by organizing a large-scale recruitment. Ouyang Shua swept through the various city defense battalions and city guard brigades in an instant. He did not even let go of their headquarters. He believed that with the 3 divisions holding down the fort, it would be difficult for small fries to do anything to Shanghai County. Third, after the city defense battalions and city guard brigades are reorganized, apart from Shanghai County, Choshui County, and Yuyi County, the remaining affiliated territories, including Beihai County, will recruit a city defense reserve battalion to be responsible for the local city defense. As for the formation of city guard brigades in Shanghai County, Choshui County, and Yuyi County, we will temporarily postpone it. Once the territory is promoted to a county city, we will make a unified arrangement. Ouyang Shua's decision to set up the City Defense Battalion in Beihai County had a deep meaning. Previously, the North Sea Fleet was not only the territory's navy, but it also had the responsibility of guarding Beihai County. The 2 responsibilities were mixed together. This time, the Army reorganization did not involve the North Sea Fleet. If the North Sea Fleet wanted to make a big move, it would probably have to wait until after the new year. Yes, sir. Bai Qi's eyes lit up. With this deployment, it would not be long before the 3 divisions drew their swords in Lianzhou. After the three of them finished discussing the army reorganization plan, the next step was the most crucial personnel arrangement. Division Chief Go, pass on my orders. Yes. Shi Wansui will be transferred to be the division commander of the 1st Division and will be stationed at the West City Barracks. Luo Shixin will be transferred to be the division commander of the 2nd Division and will be stationed at the North City Barracks. Eli will be transferred to be the division commander of the 3rd Division and will be stationed at the East City Barracks. Ouyang Shuo first decided on the division commanders of the 3 divisions. Next, it was time to select the candidates for the brigade commanders of the divisions. As expected, Shi Hu, Shi Bao, Zhao Yin, Jiang Kai, Li Mingliang, and the Black Knights were all promoted. What was unexpected was that Shi Hu was transferred to be the brigade commander of the 1st Brigade of the 1st Division and was transferred away from the Mountain Barbarian Heavy Infantry Unit. Guo Liang, Su Wang, and Liao Kai did not get promoted. Instead, they took up the positions of the 3 division commanders' personal guards. Guo Liang was paired with Shi Wansui, Su Wang was paired with Luo Shixin, and Liao Kai was paired with Eli. The generals of the various city defense battalions and city guard brigades retained their original positions. After all, they still needed to be responsible for setting up the reserve forces. The only exception was the brigade commander of the Qiushui County City Guard Brigade, Zhang Daniyu, and the brigade commander of the Yuyi County City Guard Brigade, Hu Yibiao. They were transferred to the 3rd Division and took up the positions of the 2 brigade commanders of the Pike Brigade. Out of the 3 brigade commanders of the City Guard Brigades, only Zhao Sihu was left. He was pressed to the ground by Ouyang Shuo. Taking this opportunity, Ouyang Shuo officially appointed Bai Qi as the general of the 3 divisions. Bai Qi, who had always been calm, could not help but be moved by such kindness. He bowed and said, "Thank you for your trust, Marquis." Ouyang Shuo nodded and said with a smile, "I hope that the 3 divisions can rise from the ashes in the hands of the general and become a real elite army." After pausing for a while, Ouyang Shuo continued, "Regarding the matter of arranging for the 2nd Division to go through the army training, the earlier they complete the training, the earlier the territory can advance." Understood. After the discussion, Bai Qi and Gu Hongliang got up and left. The next month would be enough for them to be very busy. They really could not relax. The next day, the army reorganization plan and the adjustment of the generals were announced by the Military Affairs Office, causing a heated discussion. To be continued. Chapter 287. After the military reorganization plan was announced, all the troops in Shanghai County began to move. The troops gathered and waited to be reorganized. The generals went to take their posts and receive the troops. Under the command of General Bai Qi, everything was in order and did not cause any disturbances. Most of the generals of Shanghai County had participated in the Battle of Chongping, and all of them admired Bai Qi's abilities. Therefore, Bai Qi's appointment as general did not cause any unrest or dissatisfaction in the army. The weapons and equipment produced by the 4 military workshops were continuously transported to the 3 camps. After the large purchase of raw materials, the armor workshop and the bow and crossbow division worked at full capacity to produce a large number of bows and armors. Along with the weapons and equipment, a large number of rations and other supplies were also transported. Seeing that winter was coming and the war was about to end, it was the best time for the troops to train. Naturally, they had to stock up enough rations in advance. With the rapid development of animal husbandry, the army also had a large number of fish and meat in addition to rations. A large number of goats and pigs were transported to the camps and kept in pens. Among the fish, other than the seafood from Beihai County, there was also the freshwater fish from Shilo Lake. Apart from that, the War Preparedness Division also sent people to the grasslands to purchase green beetle horses. The 3 divisions lacked 5,000 to 6,000 war horses. Ouyang Shuo did not want to use the green beetle horses raised by the Storm Valley Military Horse Farm for the time being. So he asked the War Preparedness Division to purchase as much as possible from the grasslands. After winter, the livelihood of the tribes in the grasslands became difficult. As long as they prepared a large amount of rations, they could still exchange for some green beetle horses. The armory of Shanghai County was filled to the brim with the weapons and equipment that the troops had changed into. His aunt, Lin Jing, and the members of Snow Rose made more than 20 trips back and forth before the arsenal was emptied. According to preliminary estimates, this batch of weapons and equipment could be sold for at least 30,000 gold coins, which was enough to cover the expenses of the Shanghai County Army. The price they paid was that the large amount of elite equipment produced by the 4 major military workshops had not yet made a profit. All of it had been digested internally, which made the Dragon's Seeking Point and other allies complain. The profit cycle of the military industry was delayed until after the year. The extra gold coins from selling the equipment were all used by Ouyang Shua to purchase rations from the market. He purchased tens of millions of units of rations and stored them in the granary in the western suburbs to make up for the shortage of rations in the territory. While Shanghai County was actively reorganizing its armaments, there were also unusual changes in the grasslands. Tianjin tribe, Khan's tent. Khan Meng Ku's expression fluctuated. He asked in a deep voice, "Did you see it clearly?" Meng Ku's body was no longer the same as before, but even so, no one dared to be impudent in front of him. Even if that person turns into ashes, I'll still recognize him. There's no mistaking it. The one who replied was a tall, bearded, middle-aged man. When he spoke, his eyes were filled with bone-deep hatred. Upon closer inspection, this man was actually Lakshan, the former commander of the western part of the town who had been imprisoned by Monk. Unexpectedly, he had been secretly released by Monk. It seemed that he was still out on a mission and had just returned to report to Monk. The person Rakshan recognized was Lin Yi, the young general who had planned the wildfire operation and buried the west side of the town. The northern barracks were stationed to the south of the moat, and it was rare to see Lin Yi's face. Lin Yi was no longer a secret to the grasslanders after the northern camp was moved to where Tianfeng used to be. If not for the fact that the troops had just moved to the northern barracks and participated in the Battle of Chongping, they would have been exposed long ago. It was Ouyang Shua's fault for being careless. He didn't think that the rumored imprisoned Lakshan would see the light of day again. In fact, Lakshan was secretly released by Monk not long after he was imprisoned. Monk gave Lakshan a secret mission, and that was to find out who had attacked the west side of the town. Monk wouldn't be able to rest easy if he didn't find out the truth. Lakshan was misled by Ouyang Shua's smokescreen. His previous targets of investigation were mainly the tribes and bandits in the west. He never thought that the enemy would come from the south. It wasn't until Shanghai County took down Tianfeng tribe without bloodshed and officially established a foothold in the grasslands that Lakshan's attention was drawn. After some investigation, he found Lin Yi in the northern barracks, the enemy who had ruined his life. Only now did the truth come to light. "So you're saying that our Tianfeng tribe fell to this state because of them?" Monk's voice was cold. Although there wasn't a trace of hatred in his voice, it made people shiver even more. Not only that, I believe that the riots and assassinations at the borders of the medium-sized tribes were also done by them. Their goal was to cooperate with their military operation to destroy Tianfeng tribe. Even the destruction of the Tianlian tribe was inextricably linked to them. They're a pack of hungry wolves, and they've been eyeing our tribes for a long time. After going through this ordeal, Lakshan had become calmer, but his expression was a little cold. How can we allow others to sleep next to us?" Monk saw through it and asked, "Do you know the strength of their army?" "Very strong. According to their organization, there are 2 cavalry brigades stationed in the northern barracks alone, a total of 5,000 people, equivalent to one of our towns in the east." At this point, Lakshan was a little depressed as well. He adjusted his emotions and continued. "Not only that, these few days, they seem to be reorganizing their army again. Although we can't find out the exact situation, the army will only increase, not decrease. What's even more hateful is that their cavalry are all riding our grasslands' green beetle horses, and their equipment is much better than ours." Monk's expression darkened. "So you're saying that our tribe alone can't do anything to them?" Lakshan noticed the Khan's expression, and his heart trembled. He didn't know if the Khan was thinking about the annihilation of the western part of the town. This matter had become a knot in his heart. Lakshan shook his head, trying to get rid of the distracting thoughts in his mind, and said carefully, "Although I don't want to admit it, they have indeed grown their wings. Other than the garrison in the northern barracks, they also have a garrison in Friendship County, and this does not include the garrison in other places. We can't do it. Do you think we can't destroy them with the strength of the entire grasslands?" Monk was indeed an ambitious person. He was able to rise and fall, and immediately thought of using external forces to destroy the enemy. But will those medium-sized tribes agree to send troops? Lakshan expressed his doubts. Today was different from the past. The remaining 7 medium-sized tribes were now on guard against the Sky's End tribe, and they had long held grudges against each other. Lakshan also heard that the people from Shanghai County went to the medium-sized tribes to purchase green beetle horses, and all of them were welcomed by those tribes. Those fellows had long been bribed by their grain, tea, and salt. Monk seemed to see through Lakshan's thoughts and said, "You, don't underestimate those medium-sized tribes. Don't look down on them just because they're on good terms with Shanghai County now, but that's because they haven't recognized the ambition of Shanghai County. Once we report the information we have to the medium-sized tribes, I can guarantee that those fellows will definitely be tempted. After all, no one wants to become the next guy abundant tribe, right? Their competition with us, in the end, is just a civil war. Right now, Shanghai County is the common enemy of our grasslands." What Monk did not explain to Lakshan was that he also wanted to use this operation to re-establish the core leadership position of the Sky's End tribe in the grasslands. The Khan is wise. Lakshan had to admit that in terms of reading people's minds, he was not on the same level as the Khan at all. He was really too immature. Monk waved his hand with difficulty and continued, "Relying on external forces is ultimately a bad plan. More importantly, we still need to have an army that can deter all sides. After so much time has passed, the time is ripe to rebuild the west side of the town. Lakshan, I hope that you will not disappoint me again." Lakshan's head buzzed, and his blood instantly rushed to his head. He was so excited that he couldn't speak. At this moment, his emotions were really complicated. Excitement, joy, gratitude, melancholy, and so on. He had mixed feelings and could not express them in words. He could only respectfully kowtow to Monk 3 times and solemnly swear, "I pledge my life to the Khan. Even if I have to sacrifice my life, I will not hesitate to repay the Khan's great kindness." Monk nodded. This was the effect he wanted. Recently, the nobles in the tribe had been somewhat restless. The newly built west side of the town, of course, had to be in the hands of the generals who were completely loyal to him. Loosening and tightening were all within his control. Ouyang Shuo was still unaware of the conversation that took place in the grasslands. He was currently busy gathering the chief officers of the various departments to coordinate the reorganization of the army. Ouyang Shuo summoned Song San, Wang Yuanfeng, Elder Qian, Zhao Yufeng, and the others to make arrangement for the establishment of the 3 divisions' logistical support battalions. The Military Intelligence Department was responsible for the formation of the scouts. With the Special Training Team, Rattlesnake, the reconnaissance skills of the Military Intelligence Department spies were not the same as before. Training 300 scouts was not a problem for them. Scouts were further divided into infantry scouts and cavalry scouts. They were responsible for different reconnaissance tasks. The Godly Arms Battalion was responsible for the formation of the Engineering Battalion. This included the craftsmen who built the camp, the crossbowmen who operated the large ballistae, and the professional soldiers who operated ladders and other siege equipment. With Wang Yuanfeng, a battalion commander who was proficient in all kinds of large-scale equipment, the formation of the Engineering Battalion progressed smoothly. Ouyang Shuo did not have to worry too much. The government clinic was responsible for the formation of the Military Doctor Battalion. As early as the establishment of the government clinic, the deputy director of the government clinic, Elder Qian, had already started to train the Military Doctor Battalion. The battalion had been formed recently, and they could be directly transferred into the 3 divisions to serve. The Combat Readiness Division was responsible for the formation of the Cook's Army Platoon. The Combat Readiness Division alone was not enough to complete this task. They had to recruit cooks from the outside, be incorporated into the Army, and undergo basic military training. Then, the Cook's Army Platoon would be formed. To be continued. Chapter 288. In November, the Three Flowers Winery made a profit of 4,000 gold coins. Adding the revenue from the North Twilight Saltworks, the Wolf Mountain Mine, and the tax revenue, Shanghai County's revenue reached more than 28,000 gold coins. Ouyang Shua intercepted 7,000 gold coins and restored the funds in his storage pouch to 110,000 gold coins. The remaining 21,000 gold coins were allocated by the Finance Bureau, with the military spending taking up the majority of the financial expenditure. As the end of the year approached, several major projects in Shanghai County had been completed. The 3 bridges connecting Shanghai County, Qiushui County, and Yui County were all completed, connecting the 3 cities into one. The construction of Shanghai County's official residence, administrative district, and residential area was nearing completion. The population of the city had exceeded the 60,000 mark, but it only occupied a quarter of the residential area. It could still accommodate a large number of urban residents. The construction of the 2 official roads was also nearing completion. The official road connecting Pool Water County and Yui County on the east side would be completed within a week. The Heavenly Sea Road in the west could also be completed before the new year. The most difficult part was the construction of the city wall in Tianfeng County. With the current progress, it would be delayed until next year. In December, the Merit Examination Department under the Administrative Office would start the annual assessment. The results of the assessment would directly affect the promotion and transfer of officials. It was a major event in the government system. Due to the importance of the matter, the chief of the administration, Fan Zhongyan, would personally oversee the assessment. As the largest chamber of commerce in Chuanzhou, Hechuanji Chamber of Commerce officially established a branch in Shanghai County. The wave caused by the belief in Mazu gradually stabilized and came to an end. Ever since the 100 Schools of Thought Contend mission had been activated, there had been no news of any activity. Most likely, it was still in the midst of preparation. Not a single person from the 100 Schools of Thought had visited Shanghai County. Similarly, the search for historical figures in the various royal city offices was not going smoothly. 10 days had passed, and not even a shadow of a historical figure had been seen, let alone inviting them to Shanghai County to become officials. On the first day of the 12th month of the first year of Gaia, Shanghai County 2nd Division was the first to be established, officially forming an army. The 2nd Division could be said to be a gathering of talented generals. Other than the division commander Luo Shixin, the other 5 commanders were Lin Yi, Sun Tengjiao, Xiao Bu, the Black Knights, and Sun Chuanlin. Another characteristic of the generals was that they were all young. They were all young generals. Of the 5 cavalry brigades that made up the 2nd Division, except for the newly formed Heavy Cavalry Brigade that was reorganized from the City Defense Cavalry Battalion, the rest were all veterans of hundreds of battles. They were the cream of the crop in the Shanghai County Army. Therefore, as soon as the 2nd Division was formed, it possessed extremely strong combat power and was ranked at the top of the 3 divisions. The next day, Ouyang Shua arranged for the 2nd Division to participate in the corps trials. Only the soldiers of a division could participate in the Legion trial. Even Lord Ouyang Shua and General Bai Qi were unable to participate personally. North City Barracks, drill ground. After the 13,500 soldiers of the 2nd Division had gathered, Ouyang Shua activated the army trial on the control panel of the territory. Immediately, the sound of a system notification rang in his ears. System notice. Congratulations to player not have closed for activating the army trial. The army trial is divided into division trial and army trial. Please choose the type of trial. I'll choose the division trial. System notification. Selection complete. 5,000 gold coins will be deducted from the trial fee. Do you wish to activate the trial now? Activate. Suddenly, a temporary portal appeared in the drill ground, emitting a mysterious light. The trial space was equivalent to a scenario mission space. The time was set to be the same as the war campaign space. During the trial, soldiers who died in battle could be resurrected for free. After resurrection, the soldiers would be reduced to rank 1 ordinary soldiers. In theory, there was no limit to the number of times the army trial could be activated. As long as you had the money, you could activate it at any time. Division Commander Luo Shixin led the 5 brigade marshals to Ouyang Shua to bid farewell. Marquis, go! Ouyang Shua didn't say anything emotional. He trusted these soldiers. Yes. Luo Shixin bowed, turned around, and walked into the portal confidently. Following Luo Shixin, the officers of the 2nd Division led them into the portal one after another. Luo Shixin passed through the portal, and what appeared in front of him was a vast grassland. As far as the eye could see, there was nothing but grass. He couldn't help but feel puzzled. Even so, Luo Shixin didn't let down his guard. He ordered the soldiers to get into formation near the portal and get ready for battle. Sure enough, when the last soldier stepped out of the portal disappeared without a trace. At the same time, a voice came from the sky. The division test officially begins. Last till the end, and you pass. As the voice spoke, the grassland that was empty a moment ago was suddenly filled with countless wolves. They were so dense that it was hard to count. There were at least 100,000 hungry wolves. Luo Shixin's scalp went numb. He'd never seen so many hungry wolves before. Could it be that all the wolves in the grassland came to teach them a lesson? There was no time to think. The wolves surrounded the army from all sides and pounced at them. Attack! Luo Shixin was a fierce general. He was full of courage. He ordered the other 4 brigades to attack in 4 directions. As for Sun Quanling's crossbow brigade, he was in the center under the protection of his personal guards, relying on the crossbows to kill the wolves. Kill! Lin Yi took the lead and led the 1st brigade to attack the north. Sun Tengjiao didn't want to fall behind. He led the 2nd brigade to attack the east. The Shadow Knights and Shab's troops attacked the south and west respectively. The 4 cavalry brigades were like 4 tornadoes, killing the wolves. As soon as they came into contact, the generals realized that the wolves were not ordinary. These wolves were not only unafraid of death, but also knew when to advance and retreat. There was even the shadow of a battle tactic. How could they not be shocked? The ferocious wolves were extremely cunning. They specifically challenged the horses and paid no attention to the riders on the horses. If it wasn't for the fact that the 2nd Division's horses were very spiritual, they would have suffered heavy losses. Facing a pack of wolves 10 times their size, the men of the 2nd Division were completely stirred up. How could they tolerate such a pack of beasts stepping on their heads and shitting on them? The 1st and 2nd brigades were heavy cavalry brigades. They were less mobile, but the horses were protected, so the wolves didn't cause as much trouble to the horses. The heavy cavalry's main weapon was the lance, but it was too heavy. It wasn't suitable for fighting the nimble wolves. The soldiers put the lance into their pouches and pulled out the tang sword from their waists. The sword flashed, and the wolf's head fell to the ground. Lin Yi and Sun Tengjiao, the 2 generals, gave up on the usual tactics of heavy cavalry, no longer charging as a whole. Instead, they split up into platoons, forming a formation, breaking up into smaller groups, and slaughtering the wolves. On the other hand, the 3rd and 4th brigades were light cavalry. Their main weapon was the tang sword, and their formation was flexible. They could move around the battlefield as they pleased. As a result, the black cavalry and Xiaobu's tactic was to charge as a group, going back and forth. The number of wolves that died under the horses' feet was countless. The 5th Brigade, on the other hand, was in the middle, carrying out long-range attacks and covering fire. Luo Shixin led his personal guard, sitting in the middle of the battlefield. He didn't choose to fight. His personal guard was his reserve force. He wouldn't use it unless it was a critical moment. The 500 soldiers of his personal guard were elites Luo Shirshin had picked from the 4th Brigade of the 1st Division. They knew each other well and worked well together. As a division commander, Luo Shirshin knew that his most important duty wasn't to lead his troops into battle, but to observe the battlefield closely. The current situation made Luo Shirshin frown. The situation wasn't looking good. Although the wolves suffered heavy casualties, they couldn't kill them all. After killing a group, another group would charge in, as if there was no end to them. As a result, the cavalry fell into a bitter battle, losing their spirit. Add to that the fact that the 4 brigades were fighting on their own, and some were even secretly competing with each other. They lacked teamwork and coordination, and the situation was far from good. Luo Shirshin knew that the 5 brigade commanders of the 2nd Division were all from different backgrounds. They were all young and full of vigor. It was inevitable that they didn't respect each other. Among the 5, Lin Yi had the most legitimate background and was the most experienced. He had always been valued by Marquis, and from squad leader, he was promoted to brigade commander, serving as the commander of the North Barracks. During this period, he made many contributions, killing bandit leaders, offering strategies to the grasslands, and following Marquis to battle everywhere. Luo Shirshin's transfer to the North Barracks had pushed Lin Yi's position away. He didn't know what Lin Yi was thinking. Although he was confident that whether it was martial arts or leadership skills, he was far superior to Lin Yi, but no one could stop Lin Yi from having other thoughts. This was human nature. After all, he, Luo Shirshin, hadn't shown any extraordinary abilities since he followed Marquis. Sun Tingjiao came from a refugee camp, and he joined Shanhai County with the annexation of the refugee camp. He formed an iron triangle with the military chief Gu Hongliang and the business chief Su Jinchang. From the beginning, Sun Tingjiao had been competing with Lin Yi in secret, but unfortunately, he had always been below Lin Yi. This time, he was finally on the same level as Lin Yi. How could he not want to compete with him? The Black Knights were surrendered bandits. After passing the inspection, they were finally put in an important position, and they were eager to prove themselves in front of their peers. After all, before they surrendered, there were no less than 1,000 cavalry under the Black Knights. Xiaobu was a surrendered nomadic tribe, and the grassland people liked to compete, so there was nothing much to say. Even though Xiaobu was one of the calmer ones, it was inevitable that he would be competitive in front of his outstanding peers. The calmest one was Sun Quanlin. This general, who didn't succeed in Dali, didn't want to submit to the rich and powerful. With the help of the Chui merchant group, he left Dali and joined Shanhai County, and was put in an important position by Marquis. The difficult experience made Sun Quanlin more stable and low-key, and he didn't compete with others. He only fought on the battlefield to repay Marquis' kindness. Thinking of this, Luo Shirshin couldn't help but feel a headache. To be continued. Chapter 289. Luo Shirshin knew very well. The first test for him as a division commander was how to unite the 5 young generals by his side. Perhaps this division's training would be an opportunity. In the blink of an eye, the situation on the battlefield changed again. The 2nd Brigade underestimated the enemy and unknowingly fell into the wolf pack's encirclement. Add to that the sudden increase in the number of wolves and the pressure on them increased, and they fell into a tough battle. Luo Shirshin waved his flag and ordered the 5th Brigade to reinforce the 2nd Brigade, saving them from the wolf pack. Sun Quanlin received the order and directed his soldiers to the west, concentrating on killing the wolves there. The dense rain of arrows caused heavy casualties to the wolf pack, and Sun Tangjiao seized the opportunity to break out of the encirclement. After a while, the 2nd Brigade was forced back to their original position, suffering quite a number of casualties. The medic team immediately went up and carried the injured soldiers to the center for simple bandages. Luo Shirshin was sure that there was an alpha wolf commanding the wolves from behind. Otherwise, the wolves wouldn't be able to advance and retreat so strategically, even knowing how to divide and surround them. The key to defeating the wolf pack was to find the alpha wolf. However, the sea of wolves was a sea of gray as far as the eye could see, and they were all the same in size. In his eyes, every wolf looked the same, so how was he supposed to tell which one was the alpha? Luo Shirshine changed his mindset. The alpha wolf was a commander, just like him. Imagine, if he was the alpha wolf, where would he hide? With this question in mind, Luo Shirshine carefully observed the wolf pack's movements. Tens of thousands of ferocious wolves surrounded the army in circles and fought with the army. The scene was extremely explosive. In the sky, wolf heads streaked across in an endless stream, as if it was raining wolf heads. The plan to surround the 2nd Brigade failed, and the wolves made a new move. They began to target the 1st Brigade. Just like the 2nd Brigade, the 1st Brigade fought in units of platoons. Fortunately, Lin Yi was more experienced than Sun Tingjiao and didn't make the mistake of underestimating the enemy. Even so, the 1st Brigade was made up of real heavy cavalry, and they weren't built for long battles. Prolonged battles were a huge test for the horses' stamina. Slowly, the soldiers began to show signs of fatigue, and their attacks slowed down. The wolves were so sharp that they immediately sensed the enemy's weakness and waited for an opportunity to strike. The wolves on the other 3 sides quietly gathered towards the north. Luo Shirshine smiled coldly and thought to himself, "I've finally caught you." With a wave of the command flag, the 2nd and 4th Brigades moved to the north from the east and west respectively, while the 5th Brigade remained in place. Luo Shirshine led his personal guard camp and charged out, heading straight for the northernmost area. The soldiers of the personal guard camp had been holding back their energy for a long time. Seeing the division commander give the order, they charged towards the north like a herd of wild horses. All the wolves that blocked their way were turned into meat paste. Luo Shirshine took the lead and charged out. He purposely showed off his skills in front of the generals, using the steel overlord spear in his hand to show off its might. With a sweep of the spear, the wolf's skull was shattered on the spot, its brain juices splattering everywhere. The generals were overwhelmed with shock. One had to know that skulls were the hardest, not to mention that they were used to sweep. Luo Shirshine's spear skills were amazing, and with his unparalleled strength in the sky, he was truly the reincarnation of an overlord, a true hero. Lin Yi and the other generals couldn't even catch up to him. Luo Shirshine was truly terrifying when he used his full strength. The wolves saw his power and arranged for hundreds of wolves to surround and attack him. Luo Shirshine wasn't afraid at all. With a sweep of his spear to the left and right, he immediately cleared half of the area. He was truly invincible. Even so, the wolves were still fearless. After one wave died, another wave charged forward. It was as if there was something extremely important behind the wolves that they needed to protect with their lives. Seeing this, Luo Shirshine was even more confident and resolutely charged forward. The large number of wolves couldn't stop him at all. How ferocious was he? The steel overlord spear in his hand whistled as he wielded it, bringing up puddles of blood and brain juices. The scene was extremely heroic. Seeing their general's power, the soldiers couldn't help but cheer in unison. At this time, the morale of the entire army was at its highest. A group of hot-blooded men, under Luo Shirshine's lead, forcefully split the wolves in half and finally broke through the encirclement of the wolves. Luo Shirshine took the lead. When he finished off the last batch of wolves, a strange scene appeared in front of him, making him dumbfounded. Behind the pack of wolves, a tall wild wolf stood there, motionless. This wild wolf, other than being a little bigger, had no other special features. The most special thing was the white wolf lying on the head of the wild wolf. The wolf cub was the size of a cat, and its fur was pure white, without a single blemish. What was more special was that pair of eyes. It was really extraordinarily spirited. At first glance, even the eyes of a normal person wouldn't be as vivid and lifelike. It was really full of spirituality. Division commander, could it be that the one commanding the wolves is this little wolf cub? Su Wang, the personal guard beside Luo Shirshine, said in disbelief. I can't be wrong. Think about it. Ordinary wolves don't have such spirited eyes. If it was in the past, Luo Shirshin wouldn't have believed in the existence of spirit beasts. It was not until he came to Shanghai County and saw the guardian beast of Shanghai County, Nian, that he realized how big the world was. Then, should we kill it? Su Wang couldn't bear to kill it. No. Luo Shirshin shook his head and said, "This kind of spirit beast is extremely rare. It would be a pity to kill it. Capture it and bring it back to the Marquis. I'm sure Third Miss will like it very much." "Hee, Division Commander, why are you flattering the Marquis?" Su Wang said with a smile. Go, go, go." Luo Shirshin was embarrassed into anger. "Hurry up and capture it. If it escapes, you'll be held responsible." "Yes, Division Commander." Su Wang straightened up and led the personal guards to surround the white wolf cub. At this moment, the wolf pack seemed to have gone crazy, recklessly charging towards the north. Luo Shirshin was even more certain that the white wolf was the commander of the wolf pack, mobilizing the army to block the wolf pack outside. Seeing that victory was in sight, the soldiers did not dare to slack off. They used all their strength to fight the wolf pack's final frenzy. Fortunately, although Su Wang was usually mischievous, he was not careless when it came to handling matters. He captured the white wolf in a few moves. The little fellow was intelligent, but its martial strength was not that great. It was no different from an ordinary wolf cub. However, the wild wolf that served as the white wolf's mount died, tragically in the hands of the personal guards. After being captured, the white wolf was not afraid. Its pair of watery eyes curiously sized up Luo Shirshin and the others. The hearts of these iron-blooded men were about to melt. Luo Shirshin took the little white wolf from Su Wang's hands and lifted it by the neck. He suspended the little white wolf in the air and said, "Little guy, I know you can understand what I'm saying. Let those wolves retreat. Don't make unnecessary sacrifices." The little fellow glanced at Luo Shirshin, scratched its little head with its little claws, stared at its calves, turned its head, and called out to the wolf pack in a childish voice, "A wolf." Luo Shirshin tried hard to hold back his laughter. Such a cute voice really did not match the little fellow's status. More importantly, the little fellow's voice was not loud. Luo Shirshin wondered if the wolf pack could hear its voice. The next scene made Luo Shirshin and the others' jaws drop. The wolf pack that was fighting desperately a moment ago suddenly stopped. The wolf pack reluctantly looked in the direction of the white wolf, then turned and left one after another. In an instant, the wolf pack retreated like the tide and soon disappeared. It really came and went without a trace. Luo Shirshin breathed a sigh of relief. He had finally taken it down. What puzzled him was that there was no notification from the sky that the trial was over and the portal did not appear. He did not dare to be careless. He ordered the troops to form a defensive formation and wait for the next wave of enemies. Sure enough, before the 2nd Division could recover, there was another change in the grassland. Fire broke out of thin air in the east, south, and west. Then a strong wind blew out of thin air, and the fire quickly spread with the help of the wind, turning the grassland into a sea of fire. The soldiers had never seen such a spectacle, and there was a commotion in the troops. Luo Shirshin was the calmest. He ordered the army to shrink the line of defense and prepare to retreat to the north, the only place that was not on fire. At this moment, the rumbling sound of hooves suddenly came from the north, which seemed to be the safest. Luo Shirshin snorted. He knew that things would not be so simple. He ordered the divisions not to panic, and to seize the time to reorganize the front line before the fire spread, and not to retreat to the north in a swarm. After a while, a black line came from the north. It was tens of thousands of grassland cavalry. The cavalry came whistling, accompanied by bursts of whistling, and actually surrounded the soldiers of the 2nd Division as prey. Luo Shirshin smiled coldly. The courageous won in a narrow encounter. The 2nd Division had no way out. If they wanted to survive, they had to break through the grassland cavalry's interception. He placed the 1st and 2nd Brigades in the middle of the army, the 3rd and 4th Brigades as the left and right wings, and the 5th Brigade as the vanguard. After the army was deployed, they took the lead to charge. Kill! This time, Luo Shishine still took the lead, charging at the front with his personal guard battalion. The rumbling sound of hooves exploded in the grassland like stormy waves. Surrounded by the sea of fire, the two cavalry units fought with their backs to the wall and charged toward the enemy. The first to come into contact with the enemy was the 5th Brigade, acting as the vanguard. The two sides began to compete with crossbows on their horses. Compared to the grassland cavalry, the archery of the 5th Brigade was a little worse, but fortunately, they were equipped with crossbows. The crossbow was specially developed for the cavalry by the crossbow department. It was light, fast, and could be pulled with one hand. It was extremely sharp. What was sacrificed was a little advantage in range. Even so, the modified crossbow still had a better range than the bow. The vast rain of arrows intertwined in the air, colliding with each other, trying to kill the enemy. Luo Shishine's decisiveness gave the 2nd Division the upper hand. The grassland cavalry obviously did not expect the other side to take the initiative to attack, and were caught off guard. To be continued. Chapter 290. Under the rain of arrows, Luo Shishine led his personal guards into the enemy's formation and started a massacre. If the grassland cavalry was a pack of wolves, then Luo Shishine was a grassland lion. He charged recklessly into the wolf pack, and no one could withstand a single strike from a spear. Luo Shishine's ferocity made the grassland cavalry tremble. The grassland cavalry was not to be trifled with. How could they tolerate such a small force led by Luo Shishine? They mobilized the army and surrounded the personal guards. The soldiers of the personal guards were not as brave as Luo Shishine and immediately fell into a bitter battle. Not only that, the grassland cavalry had the advantage in numbers and still had the upper hand in the crossbow duel, firmly suppressing the 5th Brigade. Even the 3rd and 4th Brigades on the flanks were affected by the rain of arrows and suffered many casualties. The grassland cavalry was unparalleled in riding and archery. Everything happened in a flash. Just as the 5th Brigade was about to reach the front of the formation, they tacitly dispersed to the sides and circled to the flanks of the grassland cavalry. The 3rd and 4th Brigades followed and restrained the enemy on the flanks. After the 5th Brigade dispersed, the real main character appeared. Following the 5th Brigade, the 1st and 2nd Brigades launched a group charge. The cavalry unsheathed their lances and pointed them forward. With an indomitable momentum, they charged towards the grassland cavalry. The invincible heavy-armored cavalry, under the sunlight, reflected a dazzling golden light from their radiant armor. They were like heavenly soldiers and generals, majestic and unstoppable. Facing such elite troops, the grassland cavalry finally tasted the bitterness of outdated equipment. The rain of arrows shot by the grassland cavalry hit the radiant armor and directly slid off, unable to cause any fatal damage. The 5,000 heavy-armored cavalry did not slow down and directly penetrated the grassland cavalry's formation, forcibly carving out a bloody path from the front to the back. For a moment, the grassland cavalry's formation was in chaos and could no longer stop the 2nd Division from breaking out. The brigades did not continue fighting. Breaking out of the encirclement was their top priority. The grassland cavalry in chaos could only watch as the 2nd Division successfully broke out of the encirclement and gathered behind them. The situation was completely reversed. Just as the two sides were fighting, the fire on 3 sides of the grassland had completely spread. The raging fire was like a fire dragon, fiercely rushing towards the grassland cavalry in the north. Thick smoke filled the entire battlefield. Division commander, should we stop them? Let them burn alive, Sun Tengjiao suggested. No. Luo Shishine immediately rejected the idea and said, blocking their path of retreat will only force them to fight with their backs against the wall. It's the same mentality as us before. In the worst-case scenario, both sides will suffer. Then what should we do? We can't just let them go like this, right? Sun Tengjiao was somewhat unwilling. You want to leave? It's not that easy. Luo Shishine smiled coldly and said, "Arrange for the army to leave a passageway in the middle so that the enemy can only escape through that passageway. We will attack from both sides." This is a good idea. The generals were overjoyed. Luo's Shirshine strategy not only gave hope to the grassland cavalry, but also destroyed their morale by making them lose the determination to fight with their backs against the wall. It also killed two birds with one stone. It was really wonderful. Lin Yi looked at Luo's Shirshine with a complicated expression. In this battle, whether it was Luo's Shirshine's individual martial arts, tactical arrangements, or battlefield command, after a small demonstration, he was completely convinced. This time, Lin Yi was completely convinced. Perhaps Luo's Shirshine noticed Lin Yi's expression, or perhaps he didn't. His expression didn't change at all as he continued to mobilize the army, preparing to give the grassland cavalry a surprise. Even ants were greedy for life, let alone humans. The fire was about to spread to their feet, and the grassland cavalry was already prepared to fight with their backs against the wall. Who would have thought that the enemy would leave a passageway for them? Although their instincts told them that the enemy was tricking them, they didn't think too much about it when their lives were in danger. They rushed to the passageway, fighting for that slim chance of survival. The passageway was a path of life, but also a path of death. Not to mention the arrows fired by the 2nd Division on both sides. The grassland cavalry was also trampling over each other from time to time in order to escape with their lives. Everyone was fighting over the bridge, and it was a tragic scene. When half of the grassland cavalry had crossed, Luo's Shirshine waved his flag. In an instant, the 1st and 2nd Brigade locked down the passageway, completely blocking the grassland cavalry's escape route. They wanted to burn them alive. The rain of arrows formed a line of death, and any grassland cavalry who dared to cross the line died under the rain of arrows. Even if there were 1 or 2 lucky ones who managed to rush to the front of the 2nd Division, it was of no use. The raging fire, ignoring the cries of the grassland cavalry, spread with a stone-hearted determination. The stopped cavalrymen were blocked by the rain of arrows in front of them and burned by the fire behind them. It was a tragic scene. It was not that the grassland cavalry who fled first did not think of rescuing them. However, Luo's Shirshine would not give him the chance. The 3rd and 4th Brigades had already rushed over. They should be glad that they could save their lives. After destroying the intercepted grassland cavalry, Luo's Shirshine wanted to follow up the victory and annihilate the other half of the enemy. At this moment, a whisper came from the sky. The army trial is officially over. The trial is past. Along with the words, the grassland fire was miraculously extinguished, and even the bodies of the grassland cavalry disappeared. At the same time, the soldiers of the 2nd Division who had died in battle were resurrected one after another, as if a lifetime had passed. The magical scene was like a dream. Only the little white wolf lying in Luo's Shirshine's pouch proved that everything that happened just now really happened. In this battle, the 2nd Division paid the price of more than 2,000 people to pass the trial. A teleportation gate appeared in the grassland. Let's go back to the division. Luo's Shirshine ordered the divisions to pass through the teleportation gate one after another, and he walked at the back. Less than half an hour had passed since the battle on the grassland had ended in the main plain. Just as the 2nd Division walked out of the teleportation gate, Ouyang Shaw, who had been waiting in the drill ground, heard the sound of a system notification. System notification. Congratulations to player, not say you have no clothes. The 2nd Division of Shanghai County has successfully passed the Army trial. You have been awarded a military flag and a general's flag. Please check for yourself. A white light flashed, and 2 flags appeared in Ouyang Shua's hands. Gaia was very resourceful. The design of the military flag was based on the military flag that Ouyang Shua had designed for the Vanguard Battalion. The blue sea was divided into 2 by the golden dividing point. Above the sea was a towering volcano with a blazing sun spewing out. In front of the volcano, a Tang sword and a lance crossed each other. As for the general's flag, the design of the military flag was shrunk and placed in the upper left corner of the general's flag. In the center of the general's flag was a red background, and a huge Luo character was entrenched in it, fluttering in the wind. The setting of the general's flag meant that the army that passed the trial could not change its soldiers in large numbers, nor could it change its general. Otherwise, the trial would be invalid. This was because the characteristics of the army were realized through the flag. If the flag was there, the characteristics would be there. If the flag was not there, the characteristics would disappear. It was that simple. Military flag, 2nd Division after equipping, increases troop morale by 50. General's flag, 2nd Division after equipping, increases troop combat power by 20. The characteristics of the military flag were the same, which was to increase troop morale. The characteristics of the general's flag mainly depended on the general. It would show different characteristics according to the general's incapability. Taking this opportunity, Ouyang Shuo held a simple flag awarding ceremony. He personally awarded the general's flag and the general's flag to the 2nd Division's commander, Luo Shixin. From now on, these two flags would represent the 2nd Division's highest honor. The division would have a flag bearer who would be responsible for carrying the flag. If the person was there, the flag would be there. If the person was not there, the flag must be there. At this point, of the 4 promotion tasks, Shanghai County had already completed 3 of them. There was only one task left: recruit talents. So far, there was still no progress. As long as Ouyang Shuo wanted to, Shanghai County could be promoted to a first-class county city at any time. Ouyang Shuo, of course, was not satisfied. Since the beginning of the game, he was the only lord in the world who had reached the rank of Marquis. No one would come out to compete with him. There was no hurry. He would wait for a few more days. Perhaps there would be a turn for the better. After the flag awarding ceremony, Luo Shixin took the opportunity to present the little white wolf to Ouyang Shuo. Ouyang Shuo took the little white wolf and asked puzzledly. Luo Shixin briefly described what happened in the trial space. I saw that this little wolf was born extraordinary, so I brought it back and presented it to the Marquis. Ouyang Shuo nodded and said with a smile, Shixin, thank you. Then he checked the little white wolf's attributes. Name: White Wolf, Spiritual Beast. Level: Skills: Psychic, can communicate with all wolf attributes. Charm: confuse the opponent through appearance. Combat power. Evaluation: Legend has it that the White Wolf is the royal family of the wolf clan. It is the descendant of the wolf god and has a supreme status in the wolf pack. All the wolves in the world submit to it. Commanding all the wolves in the world? This little guy's background is not small. What was even more strange was that the White Wolf's level and combat power were both unknown. There was nothing. Ouyang Shuo speculated that it might be because the little white wolf was still in its infancy stage. Ouyang Shuo did not hesitate and immediately used the savage animal taming technique on the little white wolf that he had never used before. After failing several times, he barely succeeded. A system notification sounded in his ear. System notification. Congratulations to player not have clothes for taming the spiritual beast white wolf. Reward: 500 reputation points. As expected, the little white wolf did not automatically become a territory guardian beast like the Nian beast. This meant that compared to the Nian beast, the white wolf was still a little inferior. After all, the Nian beast had the blood of the Qilin. After everything was done, Ouyang Shuo brought the little white wolf back to Shanghai County. Xianying City, Shanghai County Office. On this day, a father and daughter walked in front of the office's courtyard. The father was already over 50 years old and had an extraordinary bearing. It was obvious that he had been in a high position for a long time. The daughter was no longer young. She was a middle-aged woman, graceful and elegant. Father, is this the place? That's right. That's great. The woman's joy was beyond words. To be continued. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.